Well, what do you know? What do you know? Look at me, I'm Toothless Joe. I'm here again to show the way for everyone. Yeah, or something like that. You get the gist of it. In case you're wondering, this car goes up. It only goes up if you want to go down. If you want to get down, you're in the wrong place. This car goes up. To where? Towards where Jesus is. Goes ever Jesus word. This car. Evermore Jesus word. Jesus word is not a proper adverb, Eric. Object. And you'd be right. That's okay. We make exceptions for Jesus. Who wouldn't? What with his gorgeous long flowing hair and his pale white skin, his long robe with hempen rope keeping it closed. These are the things we know about Jesus. Jesus of Nazareth. Not Jesus of Detroit. If you were mistaking one for the other. Why are you live streaming, you might say, Eric? Did your last live stream really go well enough to justify this? Well, maybe not. Good day, Legends Fall. Good day. Shall I place an additional shrimp on the Barbie for you? Alec T. What a wonderful delight it is to see your waving yellow hand. I don't know if anybody's mentioned this to you before. I don't want to make you self-conscious, but your hands are incredibly yellow. Perhaps you've come down with Simpson's character disease. Well, I just watched what I believe to be the last episode of that Discovery Channel classic, Alaskan Killer Bigfoot. If you're wondering, they survived all 40 days without being killed by Bigfoot once. I was as amazed as you are, naturally. Let me see here what I got this compressor at. Maybe turn the ratio up in the threshold a little higher. Like there. Let's try that. Does this sound too compressed now? Guten a bend? Guten a bend? What does that mean? Good bending time? It is never a bad time to bend. If you have something that needs to be bent, anyway. Something that's too straight. Bend this into shape for me, right now, you might say. Hi, Rachel, darling. How's my precious Wonder Pants doing? I'm streaming tonight. Why? So you don't have to. And remember, you can't spell stream without am. And that's important. Because the reason I can stream is because I am. A modern Descartesian dichotomy would say, hey, I stream, therefore I am. I must be am, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to spell stream. That's the logic. I could use a bit more gain. Okay, let me crank up the gain a little bit louder. Oh, I did turn down the output gain about 3 dB or something. Let me turn it back up a bit. There, is that a little bit better? Is that a little bit more gainy for you? You am doing good. I'm so glad to hear that, Rachel. Today we're enjoying a discussion about the verb to be, everybody's favorite topic. If you want to be a being who really knows what it means to be, then you need to study the question of being itself, not just being a being who knows what being bees. That's not good enough, according to Heidegger anyway. Well, I mean, he's not really clear as to whether it's good enough or not. He's just saying, hey, let's really talk a lot about what it means to ask a question about being. It doesn't mean this, it doesn't mean that, it doesn't mean this, it doesn't mean that. That's basically what I've read from Heidegger so far. It's like he sure is stumbling around a lot to make a simple enough point, which is you can't examine the question of being by converting it into something that's other than being in the same way that you can anything else, right? Anything else you want to do the analysis of it, you can convert it into something else. Well, let me convert this question of weight into a matter of encumbrance, for example. How much is this weight going to encumber us over the following distance? Then I'm converting it to my experience of it in some regard. But because any and everything that we can meaningfully talk about is a manifestation of being, and we can't meaningfully talk about anything that's not a manifestation of being, and that being itself is distinct from a being conceptually. And see, that's where Heidegger gets bogged down. It's like, well, it is distinct conceptually because we've created a static concept term to refer to something that's fundamentally dynamic, and then we get all confused because the term doesn't share the dynamism of the thing it describes. Come on, let's not be children. Heidegger, so-called Martin Heidegger. It's like I've been translating the paragraphs of it from Heideggerian bullshit into regular English as best I can. And it's really repetitive, He keeps repeating the same concept in different words. And, that's one way to really get to the meat of what somebody's doing is paraphrase the whole thing. Go line by line and see if there's an actual argument there, or if it's just fluff, or if it's just... And, for Heidegger, there's usually an actual argument, but it's usually some sort of restating of a previously made point about how difficult it is to get to the bottom of the question of meaning, of being. And he's got so many prepositional phrases like that. It's like, to get to the bottom of the question of the meaning of being itself, and not merely of a being as it expresses, we must get past the vagueness implicit in the fact that everybody, quote, is able to understand, quote, being without actually being able to articulate what it means. Okay, Heidegger, can you take any longer to say something, for fuck's sake? Surely you could come up with a clearer way of saying it than that. Heidegger, so-called Heidegger. I had high hopes for Heidegger. He's better than a lot of philosophers, I guess, but disappointing ultimately by being unnecessarily enigmatic. Why do you want to be all enigmatic? Aren't you trying to say something? Are you trying to get some point across? Why you got to put all these extra words in? I get that sometimes shit's complicated and requires a lot of complicated words. I get that. I understand that. But try a little bit to prioritize being clear instead of being weird. Instead of being all philosophical sounding. Try a little bit. Heidegger did the opposite of trying a little bit. He tried not at all. And how much less than a little bit, how much less than ideal is that? A lot less than ideal. It's like Embrace NI as a value, motherfucker. Let's get some concision up in this bitch, you know? Let's get some concision up in this bitch. Oh yeah, I'm using curse words to emphasize how serious I am about this matter. Eric's cursing. Everybody, you know it's serious. But I don't want to wait until my life is over for my meowdy meowdy meow 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 meow. And that's fair too. I don't want to wait for my life to be over. Yeah, well, that's what this car up does mean, Rachel. In this instance, it means this elevator car only goes up. Now, if you think about it, just think about it for a second, you realize, hold on a second, how does it get back down here? Right? How does it get back down here if this car only goes up? It must go down as well. What you're really saying is this elevator car won't take you down. It doesn't stop on the way down, you know. That's what they really mean. That's what they should say instead of lying like that. They should say, this car won't stop here on the way down. It only stops here on the way up. But that's too many words. They just put this car up. And look, they even turned the elevator sideways. Shh. Talk about a bunch of tards. Why would they turn the elevator sideways? What do you mean it's my picture that's sideways? Oh. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe the elevator was right side up and it was just my picture that was sideways. That makes a little more sense, actually, than my interpretation of it, which was that, oh, look, they must have, and I didn't notice it at the time, installed the elevator sideways. That would be a dumb thing to conclude. But, you know, I like to conclude a lot of dumb things. Like I've concluded birds and clouds are the same thing. They're made out of the same thing because they're both in the sky. That's a reasonable conclusion to draw, so I did. I drew it. Birds and clouds are made out of the same stuff because they both float in the sky. And we know clouds are made out of water vapor, therefore birds are made out of water vapor. I'm surprised how delicious they are when we eat them. You know, that's the weird thing. You don't think of it that way when you're having Thanksgiving dinner and you're enjoying a nice succulent turkey. You don't think, oh my God, this is just water vapor. But it is. I proved it with my logic. Do you guys see how impressive my logic is? I can prove all kinds of things. Well, that's true if you live where it's snowing. Soleil. Okay, if your name really is Soleil, like Soleil Moonfry, then why do you spell it like that? Because that's not a good way to spell Soleil. You should spell it S-O-L-E-Y with an accent and a exclamation point in front and behind. Soleil. A sideways elevator is a cable car. Okay. Or maybe a monorail. Don't forget the power of the monorail to bring all of us to a new world of freedom, joy, and elegant travel along not two, but just a single rail. That's the thing that makes the monorail so compelling. It doesn't need two rails, let alone three rails. It just needs one. Mono. It goes mono-y-mono with that rail, you might say. But you know what's cheating? A hanging monorail. That's cheating. The monorail needs to ride on top of the rail if it wants to be a true monorail. Otherwise, it's just a gondola by another name. I'm not impressed by gondolas. Now, monorails, that's impressive, but... Are you the actual Soleil Moon Fry? If so, you know what my question is. Why did you get breast reduction surgery? That's what everyone's question to Soleil Moon Fry is. That was a crime against nature, Soleil. Okay? You turned into a very bountiful, bountiful young woman, and then you had breast reduction surgery. And I said, whoa, whoa, hey, hey, hey there, Soleil Moon Fry. Watch that actually be Soleil Moon Fry. You never heard of Soleil Moon Fry? She was Punky Brewster as a child actress, and then when she grew up into a young woman, she really grew up into a young woman, let's say, like ridiculously so. So much so that she got breast reduction surgery. And I remember it was, I don't know, 30 years ago or so, but I was outraged, needless to say. I think all red-blooded Americans were. Whoa, whoa, whoa. The only acceptable word to go between breast and surgery is enlargement. Okay, well, good. We can all relax. It's not actually Soleil Moon Fry, and I'm not actually bringing up a sensitive subject. You know, I'm sure it's a little bit of a sensitive subject for her. Oh, no. I only have fantasies of my darling Rachel. That was 30 years ago, Eric. That's not contemporary, Eric. Okay. I would guess that Soleil Moon Fry and I are probably about the same age. It seems like when Punky Brewster was on, I was maybe a couple years older than Punky. Yeah, it's Livestream. Remember, Fly Guy, you can't spell Livestream without am, and that's how you know I exist right now. That explains why you never heard of her. Well, she didn't really do much, I don't think, as an adult. She's 45? Okay, so yeah. She didn't really do much as an adult, as far as I know. She was just sort of Punky Brewster, and that was it. I saw some show, a bit of some show the other day, maybe something Rachel was watching, in which they were celebrating, maybe it was an SNL skit or something, where they were celebrating the actress who plays Blossom. Remember that TV show Blossom? You ever watched Blossom? Pretty terrible. But she's quirky, that Blossom. And I guess it was that Quirky Girls SNL skit I was watching, probably. Well, Karma's Pimp, you got a point. You can't spell Livestream without ream either. You also can't spell Livestream without I've. I have the. Well, there's no apostrophe, but let's pretend there is. I've. But no, these streams don't ream you. These streams make gentle, sweet butt love to you. Okay, it's very different. Soleil Moonfry is a cool name. Yeah, that is a pretty cool name. But the reality is, it's very difficult to cook on the moon. There's not enough oxygen to get your fire going. So how you're going to fry something on the moon is beyond me. I guess you could use magnifying glasses in the sunlight, which is presumably even stronger on the moon because it's not interfered with by an atmosphere. So you could get your food not just cooked but radioactive. Do you think if you use a magnifying glass to cook something on the moon, you'd make your food more radioactive because it would magnify the radioactive parts of the sun? What do you think? Boats? Anybody have a boat? Maybe I should make that a poll. If you use a magnifying glass to cook something on the moon, does it make it radioactive? Yes or no? Could you even cook it, even no matter how hot you got it? Because no oxygen, maybe it wouldn't cook properly. You know. I'm curious now. Like I was curious the other night when I googled how high do you have to be to jump off of on the moon before the height of the fall kills you. And it turns out it's 6 times as high as Earth. 6 times as high. So if a 20-foot fall kills you on Earth, then you have to be 120 feet fall on the moon. And what's also interesting is that eventually, if you get high enough up, then it kills you even more dead than Earthfall would because of the lack of terminal velocity. You just keep speeding up. There's no atmosphere to prevent you from keep speeding up in. How big would a 20-ounce steak be on the moon, given that there's dramatically reduced gravity? That's a great joke. Tiny. It would be tiny. I mean, huge. I mean, I don't know. The thing is, it would be the same size. It just wouldn't weigh 20 ounces anymore. Right? If you took a 20-ounce steak up to the moon, it would still be a 20-ounce steak. It just wouldn't weigh 20 ounces. That's the beautiful irony of the whole thing. I guess it would probably be 1/6, right? So it would only be a 3.3 ounce steak, maybe? 3.33333 repeating ounce steak. And then it would be 120 ounces, I guess. You'd have to get a 120 ounce steak to eat just 20 ounces worth of meat. Think how much food you have to consume if you were to live on the moon. You have to consume 6 times as much food to eat the same amount of total food. That would be funny. If somebody at NASA had made that mistake and said, well, guys, what we got to take into account here is that when they're on the moon, all their food is only going to weigh 6 as much, so they're going to need to eat 6 times as much of it. And they're like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And then they realize when they get there, oh no, we just have to still eat the same amount of food. It weighs less, but so do we by comparison. So it's the same amount. Oh, We NASA scientists really should have thought of that before we packed your thing so full of extra food. Ah, I'm feeling pretty smooth right now. I'm feeling smooth like Chivas Regal. Hold on, I'm confused. But won't this 20-ounce steak only be like a 3.33-ounce steak when they get to the moon? Dude, you got a point. Let's put 6 of them in there. Well, I would suspect that if you opened a restaurant on the moon, you wouldn't present quantities in terms of their weight. Or if you did, you'd specify Earth weight with an asterisk. 20-ounce steak, asterisk, Earth weight. You know, that way you wouldn't get complaints. Then you'd be prepared for people like Legends Fall who want to come in and demand a 120-ounce steak because they happen to be eating on the moon. Hey, Legends Fall, you knew the deal before you went to the moon. You can't claim all of a sudden you didn't understand that things were going to weigh less on the moon. I would like to open a restaurant on the moon. I don't want to work on the moon myself, but I'd like it to be called Eric's Restaurant on the Moon, and it have a big picture of me waving at you inside the restaurant. Maybe whenever I stream, it plays on the TV in the restaurant, and people who go to the moon can eat there. I don't actually want to go to the moon myself. It seems kind of far away. I would expect the travel to jostle me in an undesirable fashion. I'm not really into being jostled, so there's that. But I like the idea of giving my blessing and making it so, in the way that the King and Queen of Portugal did with Christopher Columbus. I'll give Bobby Flay a couple of spaceships and a crew of Spaniards to open up a restaurant on the moon. You know what? Let's make them Mexicans. No, you'd have to raise moon cows, obviously, Soleil. The problem with moon cows, of course, is their steaks weigh so little. But, we've already been over that, so... The thing is, if you want to create a race of moon cows, obviously what we need to do is shoot nuclear missiles with cows and grass seeds on them onto the moon. The combination of the radioactivity, the seeds, the warmth from the explosion, and the cows will create naturally occurring cow-filled fields of moon cows. Then, when we go there, we can eat the moon cows. Right, you just grab them by the tail, whirl them around, and let them go, and there they go, straight into the chopper, right? It's like a wood chipper. You just wood chip the moon cows into this gross pink paste. That's fine. Then you strain out the bone and the poop and stuff, and you've got a delicious moon cow slurry that you can shape into any shape you want, really. You can put fake barbecue lines on it, the whole 9 yards. It would be just like real meat, except more moony. I love the rich moon flavor of this beef. It tastes like night. We could open up some moon vineyards and produce some moon wines. The wines from the dark side of the moon are really, really subtle in their flavor because they barely grow at all. Meanwhile, the vineyards on the white side, the light side of the moon, are bountiful and flowery in their flavors, in their flavor profile. They taste a rich combination of chocolate, mint, tobacco, moon, and moon cow in this wine. You can really taste the moon cow. That's the irony, Boba Fett. They don't make moonshine on the moon. It's illegal. The Moon Vintners Association monopolized the production of alcohol with their vineyards, and the only kind of liquor that can be produced is brandy or cognac because that's made out of the moon wine. It's unfortunate that the Vintners Society of the World took over the moon like that, but they control most of the moon land. It's either them or the moon ranchers. The moon ranchers and the moon vintners, they control the moon largely. Of course, there's that big skate park. A lot of skaters go to the moon. The Sea of Tranquility is known as one of the universe's great skate parks, natural skate parks. It's all ramps and rails, scoops and dips, walls and jumps. It's all kinds of shit like that. You should see it. They're going to hold the 2092 Olympics at the Sea of Tranquility. It's going to be all X Games sports. Moon skateboarding, moon BMX, moon luge. If you've never seen people do moon luge, wow. They go to the top of a tall mountain on the moon and they luge down it. Well, I tell you, they're not that mysterious, Oliver. They that control the moon comprise the skaters, a cabal made of the top level skaters, top level winemakers, and top level moon cow ranchers. And they control basically everything that goes in and out of the moon now. Except for my restaurant. Then there's my restaurant. That's the other thing. Eric's Moon Restaurant, it's called. And we serve nothing but moon cow and moon wine, of course, because, you know. Yeah. You can't spell moon man without am reversed. Because the moon is like the earth, only reversed. Everything's backwards. Moon woman. I am moon woman. I hope when we go there, there's one lady who lives on the moon already. And she calls herself Moon Woman. And she just comes up to the astronauts and shoos them away, basically. Shoo, get off of here. This is my moon. I'm Moon Woman. I'm a cross between Sacagawea, Pocahontas, and Susan B. Anthony. But for the moon. And everyone will be like, oh, now I see. You're that moon woman. And she'll say, yeah, that moon woman. It's a secret cabal of one moon woman who controls everything moon related. You know what was one trippy thing I saw on one of my searches for paranormality and weirdnesses? Is it appeared potentially, although it probably was a hoax or something, but it certainly looked like maybe a combination Chinese-American team was live streaming from the moon. Rachel watched that thing with me. Remember Rachel? Her name is Luna. She lives on the second floor. She lives upstairs from you. Yes, I think you've seen her before. If something happens late at night, some kind of struggle, some kind of fight, just don't wonder what it was. Just don't ask me what it was. Just don't ask me what it was. Because what it was child abuse. That's the message of that song. In case you didn't get it, it was a serious song about a serious subject. Should you drop your creative writing class? Yes. Bum 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 ba 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 da ba 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 da ba 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 da 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 bum bum ba da 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 do 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 that's a good song. It's called Tom's Diner, I believe. It's by the same person who sings that Luca song. It's not Luna, though, it's Luca. My name is Luca. I live on the second floor. Hey, look! It's my favorite. Vum-da-dong. I love Vum-da-dong. That's where I go for all of my website needs. Octavia Silva, you should drop your class because you're any-polar and you can't train yourself to be any. I mean, the best you can do with a creative writing class is one of two things. They really should have made the baseball fields bigger, you know. That was their mistake. The pitchers have a huge disadvantage. I mean, would they pitch faster on the moon? That's the question. Would they pitch comparatively faster? If a major leaguer threw a pitch on the moon, would it hit 600 miles an hour? Or no? Oh, Octavio Silva. The point is, all right, look, there's only two things a creative writing class can possibly teach you. One is it could teach you a form, like metered verse or something for poetry, which would be useful, and then you could write in that form, and it would be somewhat liberating or perhaps idea kick loosening. Or they could teach you how to write a form of fiction, like scene fiction. Like I taught a class on scene fiction, which was about balancing four kinds of writing: dialogue, internal dialogue, description, and narrative, and constructing your story in a set of scenes. This was as constructive as curriculum I could come up with for how to teach fiction writing. And you know, I guess if somebody really wanted to learn from that approach, they could, but it's straightforward enough. Just first distinguish between the four basic kinds of sentences that are included in a piece of fiction, and recognize that the way to make fiction move faster is with more dialogue and with less description, and that it's tricky to balance, but you've got to balance the right amount of narrative and dialogue. The very best fiction writers can write really compelling stories that have almost all narrative and very little dialogue, but that's very difficult to do. You got to be like God to do that, you know. You got to be Sherwood Anderson or Nathaniel West or freaking H.H. Munro. H.H. Munro is like God of writing. But the thing is, you have to make a decision as to what you're trying to write, you know? Are you writing something that's fun and broadly popular? Are you writing something that's... Where's your bar, you know? If I were to try to aim to write fiction as good as H. Munro's, I'd be I'd be suffering in a ongoing struggle, you know, because it's just I don't think I have it in me. His writing is so deft, so clever, so polished, so perfect, so concise and right and beautiful, and yet people don't know him, people don't read him, you know, even though he's the greatest writer of all time. Yeah, I agree. Oliver Lionhand, but you know, and the thing is, if you read somebody like H. Munro, like you read, he goes by the pen name of Saki. He wrote Sredni Vashtar, among other things. Sredni Vashtar is perfect, but The Open Window is perfect. It's a short story. It's so short. It's like a few pages long, but it's just fucking perfect, you know. And you see those things and you go, oh God, wow. That's that's how you do it. You know? That's what it boils down to, is that's how you do it. Oh shit. Wow, that's good. My aunt will be down presently, Mr. Nuddle said, a very self-possessed young lady of 15. In the meantime, you must try and put up with me. Frampton Nuddle endeavored to say the correct something which should duly flatter the niece of the moment without unduly discounting the aunt that was to come. Privately, he doubted more than ever whether these formal visits on a succession of total strangers would do much toward helping the nerve cure which he was supposed to be undergoing. I know how it will be, his sister had said when he was preparing to migrate to this rural retreat. You will bury yourself down there and not speak to a living soul, and your nerves will be worse than ever from moping. I shall just give you letters of introduction to all the people I know there. Some of them, as far as I can remember, were quite nice. Frampton wondered whether Mrs. Sappleton, the lady to whom he was presenting one of these letters of introduction, came into the nice division. Do you know many of the people around here? Asked the niece, when she had judged that they had had sufficient silent communion. Hardly a soul, said Frampton. My sister was staying here at the rectory, you know, for some 4 years ago, and she gave me letters of introduction to some of the people here. He made the last statement in a tone of distinct regret. Then you know practically nothing about my aunt, pursued the self-possessed young lady. Only her name and address, admitted the caller. He was wondering whether Mrs. Sappleton was in the married or widowed state. An undefinable something about the room seemed to suggest a masculine habitation. Her great tragedy happened just 3 years ago, said the child. That would be since the time of your sister's stay. Her tragedy? Asked Frampton. Somehow, in this restful country spot, tragedy seemed out of place. You may wonder why we keep that window wide open on an October afternoon, said the niece, indicating a large French window that opened onto a lawn. It is quite warm for the time of year, said Frampton, but has the window got to do anything with the tragedy? Well, out through that window 3 years ago to a day, her husband and her 2 young brothers went off for their day's shooting. They never came back, and crossing the moor to their favorite snipe shooting ground, they were all 3 engulfed in a treacherous piece of bog. It had been that dreadful wet summer, you know, and places that were safe in other years gave way suddenly without warning. Their bodies were never recovered. That was the dreadful part of it. Here the child's voice lost its self-possessed note and became falteringly human. Poor aunt always thinks that they will come back some day. They and the little brown spaniel that was lost with them, and walk in at that window just as they used to do. That is why the window is kept open every evening till it is quite dusk. Poor dear aunt. She has often told me how they went out, her husband with his white waterproof coat over his arm, and Ronnie, her youngest brother, singing Bertie, Why Do You Bound, as he always did to tease her, because she said it got on her nerves. Do you know, sometimes, on still, quiet evenings like this, I almost get a creepy feeling that they will all walk in through that window. She broke off with a little shudder. It was a relief to Frampton when the aunt bustled into the room with a whirl of apologies for being late in making her appearance. I hope Vera has been amusing you, she said. She has been very interesting, said Frampton. I hope you don't mind the open window, said Mrs. Sappleton briskly. "My husband and brothers will be home directly from shooting, and they always come in this way. They've been out for snipe in the marshes today, so they'll make a fine mess over my poor carpets. So like you menfolk, isn't it?" She rattled on cheerfully about the shooting and the scarcity of birds and the prospects for duck in the winter. To Frampton, it was all purely horrible. He made a desperate but only partially successful effort to turn the talk on to a less ghastly topic. He was conscious that his hostess was giving him only a fragment of her attention, and her eyes were constantly straying past him to the open window and the lawn beyond. It was certainly an unfortunate coincidence that he should have paid his visit on this tragic anniversary. The doctors agree in ordering me complete rest, an absence of mental excitement, and avoidance of anything in the nature of violent physical exercise," announced Frampton, who labored under the tolerably widespread delusion that total strangers and chance acquaintances are hungry for the least detail of one's ailments and infirmities, their cause and cure. "On the matter of diet, they are not so much in agreement," he continued. "No," said Mrs. Sappleton, in a voice which only replaced a yawn at the last moment. Then she suddenly brightened into alert attention, but not to what Frampton was saying. "Here they are at last," she cried, "just in time for tea, and don't they look as if they were muddy up to the eyes?" Frampton shivered slightly and turned towards the niece with a look intended to convey sympathetic comprehension. The child was staring out through the open window with dazed horror in her eyes. In a chill shock of nameless fear, Frampton swung round in his seat and looked in the same direction. In the deepening twilight, 3 figures were walking across the lawn toward the window. They all carried guns under their arms, and one of them was additionally burdened with a white coat hung over his shoulders. A tired brown spaniel kept close to their heels. Noiselessly, they neared the house, and then a hoarse young voice chanted out of the dusk, "I said, Bertie, why do you bound?" Frampton grabbed wildly at his stick and hat. The hall door, the gravel drive, and the front gate were dimly noted stages in his headlong retreat. A cyclist coming along the road had to run into the hedge to avoid an imminent collision. "Here we are, my dear," said the bearer of the white mackintosh, coming in through the window. "Fairly muddy, but most of it's dry. Who was that who bolted out as we came up?" "A most extraordinary man, and Mr. Nuttall," said Mrs. Sappleton. "Could only talk about his illnesses, and dashed off without a word of goodbye or apology when you arrived. One would think he had seen a ghost." "Well, I expect it was the spaniel," said the niece calmly. "He told me he had a horror of dogs. He was once hunted into a cemetery somewhere on the banks of the Ganges by a pack of pariah dogs, and had to spend the night in a newly dug grave, with the creatures snarling and grinning and foaming just above him, enough to make anyone lose their nerve." Romance at short notice was her specialty. Now, that's as good a short story as anybody will ever write. It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. It's an absolutely perfect short story because it's amazing, right? It's like, first it creates this scenario where a guy's going to visit some people he's never met before on sort of a letter of invitation, a letter of introduction from his sister, who does know these people, right? And when he arrives, the lady he's there to meet, Mrs. Sappleton, and her husband, they're not there, so he talks to the teenage girl, who tells him this ridiculous story about how the wife's husband and brother and dog had gone missing several years ago, had gotten lost, fallen into the bog, and died, and their bodies were never recovered. But that it broke the aunt's mental state, such that she's kind of crazy now and keeps expecting him to come in through that window and leaves it open every day because she still thinks they're going to come home. I think she hasn't accepted the reality of it, the poor dear. And then, sure enough, the aunt comes down and she starts talking as though her husband and her brother and the dog are going to come walking in through that window, just like the niece said. And Mr., what's his name? Frampet or something like that, says, kind of shares a look of compassionate understanding with the niece, like, "Oh, this is the craziness you're talking about." But when he goes to share that look with her, she's staring out the window with horror in her eyes, because who's walking up to the window? It's the brother and the husband and the dog. And they walk inside, and Frampton bolts. He's just like, "Oh my God, what is going on here?" The dead are walking. And then when the husband and the wife are like, what the hell did that guy run off for?" The daughter, the niece lady, the teenage girl, just makes up another bullshit story, just like she did with the first guy. And then it just ends with that beautiful sentence: romance on short notice was her specialty. That's a celebration of an any dom fi polar person just fucking with everybody. It's spectacular. It's absolutely spectacular. It's a beautiful, perfect gem of a work of art, you know. There's no doubt in my mind that H.H. Monroe was an NTP of some sort, either I or E. And but beyond just that, was a specialist. Like I said, I may be an ENTP, but I can't write something that good. And there may be other areas where I'm better at than H.H. Monroe, but for whatever his special confluence of ENTP powers led him to, or INTP, I'm not sure which one he is, but he's got to be one of the two. If you read Sredni Vashtar, it's so obvious he's got to be an NTP. But he just was perfectly positioned to get it right, you know, to get that stuff right, and he did. It's not his only great short story. He's got multiple. Sredni Vashtar is just like channeled from God himself. It's got almost zero. Sredni Vashtar has almost zero dialogue in it. It's just all narrative, and it's super dense, and it's like a page and a half or 2 pages long. But the story it tells is incredible, and there's not a single wasted word. It's perfect. You know, there's this really horribly sad story by Raymond Carver called Small Good Thing. But to me, that expression, a small good thing, and that in the context of that short story by Raymond Carver, it's like it expresses a concept that sort of maybe lacked a saying, which is, so in this horrible short story, this horribly sad short story, it's brilliant, but it's horrible in that regard, by Raymond Carver. It's a story about a baker who's this family's ordered a birthday cake for their like 8-year-old or whatever, and then after they order the cake, but before they go to pick it up, the kid dies. And the baker calls them and is like, hey, pick up your goddamn cake, you know, what the fuck? You're going to order a cake, pick it up. And then finally, you know, they're ignoring his calls because obviously they've got more important things to do. And finally he gets one of them on the phone and they're like, my kid's dead, all right? And then he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Come to the bakery and I'll make you something to eat, you know. And in times where there's nothing to be salvaged and there's nothing but despair, sometimes warm bread can be a small good thing, you know. And it's like, it's so true about SI for me, from my perspective. But I think it's probably true for everybody in their fourth slot function. Like, sometimes just going for a walk can be a small good thing. Sometimes just talking into a camera can be a small good thing if you're 4th slot NE or something. Sometimes just letting things distill down to a singularity can be a small good thing. It's some 4th slot thing where it's like, if we're 4th, 8th, if we're in a state of despair because the worst possible imaginable thing has happened, there's still some small good thing that we can take solace in. Soleil Moon Fry, you've got no business telling me about whether the story was too big or not, okay? Because you're the one who got breast reduction surgery. So that's all there is to say about that. I'm going to refill my coffee now. Yeah, but H.H. Monroe, he writes under the pen name Saki, S-A-K-I. You know, like a lot of geniuses, he didn't live a super long time, and it's unfortunate we don't get to know what his later work would have been like. There's certain people that I feel sad about, like them dying too young, that normally you don't think about, because people who normally get that mantle of let's feel sad about them dying too young, normally they die in their 20s. Hey, Soleil. God gave you those boobs, okay? You just sit there and have back problems. As God intended. God intended you to have a lifetime of horrible back problems, and that's just what you're going to have to endure. God did not intend you to do track and field. That's just what you're going to have to deal with. If God wanted you to be a jogger, He wouldn't have put those massive melons on your chest. Your body, my choice. That's what I say. I want to get some bumper stickers that say that. That seems to be the spirit of the times these days. Your body, my choice. You're going to have to Google it. You can find a couple of pics of Soleil pre-surgery, but there's only a couple of them available. I mean, obviously she has her clothes on. You don't get to see them in all of their glory. Your body, my choice. A new spirit of America. Which we keep everybody safe from COVID and breast reduction surgery. Welcome to a beautiful new America. So my daughter does not have COVID. She got tested again today because one of the people she lived with got tested positive for it. Johnny did. Candace's father. It's kind of like Delilah's grandfather. Karma's Pimp, you and I understand. I think it's crimes against humanity. It's under, like, you know, chemical weapons, bioweapons, genocide, breast reduction surgery. It's in the UN Charter, I believe. That was the first order of business the League of Nations took care of back after World War I, actually. Under the guidance of the wise Woodrow Wilson. The world took a stand against breast reduction surgery. Crimes against humanity. You might as well just combine that into one thing, Soleil. Crimes against humanity. That is why we fought the Revolutionary War, because England wanted to impose breast reduction surgery on our American women. We fought to defend Sacagawea's right to have big boobs. Breast relocation surgery, not acceptable. They need to go. They are where they're supposed to be, right there, front and center on the chest. Let's leave them there. We European descendants fought for Sacagawea's right to have big tits against the British oppressors, and to this day, Sacagawea still has big tits. Marshall Washington was mostly known for being a big mamazon, you know. One of our original flags was actually that snake. Underneath it, it said, "Don't reduce my breasts." It was pretty straightforward. It wasn't a very subtle flag, but it got the message across. Then there was that other famous slogan, "No breast reduction without, doesn't even matter," was what it said. Yeah, you could cover boobs with a hat if you had them on your head, that's true. But, you know, I think the top of your head is probably room for one boob, probably not both, without getting them crowded. You don't want to crowd them. You know. Oh, kitty. Oh, kitty, your magnificence is constantly astonishing me again. Why do you constantly astonish me with your glory? When did you decide to start doing that? Was it 1982? Was that when you decided to constantly start re-astonishing me with your glory? No breast rotation surgery either. You know, I'm not a big fan of breast augmentation surgery either. Just leave them alone. They're fine the way they are, okay? Just leave them alone. You don't want to put knives near any of the tender spots, you know? Includes the peen, the vag, and the boobs. And the butt, too. There's the tender vittles. Keep your knives and scalpels away from the tender vittles is good rule of thumb. But look at the magnificent kitty. Oh, so true. Oh, so just and fine. Oh, so regal and majestic. Daddy loves you with his emotion heart. Yes, he does. They are supposed to, but few women follow that rule. They're not good with cars. Well, I can assure you this, I wouldn't let them sit there all day going unmolested. My hands would be so strong at doing this that I could just grab onto the side of brick walls and climb up them like that by the time I was done having breasts for a while. You know, I don't know if you're aware of this, Soleil, but I'm currently developing the butt uterus so that men can give birth. You know, so it's just to make things fair. The only catch right now is the butt fallopian tubes. No, butt uterus is not transsexual. This is for heterosexual men only who want to help their wife who's already had several children. And they say, fine, it's time for me to get one of my holes stretched out. It's purely for that purpose, okay? The virtue of areola diameter consists in moderation as regulated by wisdom. Aristotle. Aristotle didn't really say things about people's nipples. That's silly. You're being a silly goose now, Legends Full. Now, my butt uterus is something that anybody should be able to install in their butt at any time, and then just reach up the woman, grab the egg that's been fertilized, pull it out, put it in your butt uterus, and it'll grow fine. That's the plan. You know, sure, there's a little groping around for the fertilized egg to get it out of the woman, but it's fine. You should be able to do it at home with just yourself, a turkey baster, and your butt. That's it. And your woman, of course, to get the egg from. The fertilized egg. You could try it out first with the fertilized chicken egg. Prove that it works. Give birth to a baby chick. If you don't trust it, test it out with a chicken egg first. Eric's patented butt uterus for married couples only. There'll be a rule on it that says you should only use this after your wife's already had to have 2 or 3 kids, because she's responsible for at least the first couple of them. At that point, okay, if you want to have another kid, it's time to bring out the butt uterus. Eric's patented butt uterus for married couples only. Well, it's reasonable for you to be wary, Soleil. I'm not saying I'm following nature's path here. I am acknowledging that I'm deviating from nature's path. But I'm a big believer in gender equity. That's why I've invented Eric's patented one-of-a-kind for married couples only butt uterus. It's a Christian company. That's why it's for married couples only. We have one of those fish on our logos. And it says various like Bible verses, like Ezekiel 17:4. And man did put babies in his butt, and it was good. You remember that one? You remember that quote from the Bible? Quit putting babies in my butt. Quit putting babies in my butt. Quit putting babies in my butt before I say what. You remember that classic soul song, Motown hit by Burt Bennett's and the Butt-Keteers? Quit putting babies in my butt. That was after a 6-month trial period in which I tested Eric's patented butt uterus on the lead singer of that band. Buttery Bart Butters, but whatever his name was. Putting babies in one's butt ruins their smell. It ruins their sense of smell, too. It's like COVID. It ruins their sense of smell and taste for weeks on end. Moderation regulated by wisdom. Hold on a second there, Aristotle. It sounds like you're requiring people to use their discretion. We're trying to eliminate that from society right now. Let's get rid of all discretion. I'll tell you what I got to make into a song before I make any putting babies in my butt song. Is I need to make the song Wonderful, wonderful kitty. Wonderful, wonderful times. Always cleaning yourself. Making sure you've got clean lines. We got to make that into a full song. Because after you hear Wonderful, wonderful kitty. Wonderful, wonderful times. A few times, you'll find yourself singing it as you walk around. That's a sure sign that it's got a good song in there somewhere. Wonderful, wonderful kitty. Wonderful, wonderful times. And, the thing about it also is, it's so true. The times spent with wonderful kitty are wonderful times. Because she's a wonderful kitty. She gets a lot of attention, a lot of love, a lot of pets. But she knows sometimes that she frustrates me, Like when I already went outside at fucking 4:45 this morning and smoked a cigarette, and you got up and you ate a little bit and you went outside for a little bit. So now if you want to come back inside the big house with me, then you need to go back to sleep. It's time to go back to sleep. It's not time for you to then bug me 5 minutes later to feed you again, right? You're missing the whole point of this, cat. I'm trying to set the terms of when I get up, I want to... I'm sure that's taken directly from the CDC website, Oliver. That sounds very much like it. Something that was probably taken from there. So anyway, I'm glad we've been able to talk about the important things tonight. The things that matter. Things that change lives. I'm here for one reason, and one reason only. To change lives. Oliver, clean your room. Soleil, slay dragons. Drag, avoid being slain by Soleil. Legends Fall, referee Soleil and Drag's battle match. What are we doing? I'm saving lives, that's right. Who am I here to save? You. What am I here to save? Your life. From what? Everything. Everything except what I'm telling you is certain to kill you. Does personality correlate to whether you're a dog or a cat person? I think that's a different personality matrix called the dog or cat personality matrix, in which you score somewhere on the D to C range from dog to cat. Right now I'm way over here on the C part, but I used to be a D person. It really probably depends on which one you have, You saved a shit ton of lives today, Oliver. Can we all just be proud of Oliver for a minute? He understood how dangerous it is for him to exist in the world, and he chose to save lives today by staying home. My previous cat made her with her uterus and vagina. Well, she had help from a male cat, but he didn't stick around. He's a deadbeat dad, that male cat. Right. Another way to put that drag would be COVID-19. The time when being an INTP suddenly turned into saving lives. Hey, I've been saving lives for years, you guys. You guys always told me I was lazy. What the fuck? Yeah, Kapia was literally born in my bed right next to me. It was an interesting night. Her mother was super extra affectionate with me the night before she gave birth. She kept getting up on me and rubbing her face against my face and purring and loving the shit out of me. I was like, wow, you're really loving and really pregnant. And sure enough, sure enough, she gave birth. And I woke up, and there's this. By the time I actually woke up, I guess she had mostly cleaned up most of the grossness herself. There's some grossness, obviously. I had to change the sheets and everything, but and there was a bunch of kittens in the bed next to me, you know? I was like, well, this is quite a sight to wake up to. Bunch of kittens. Hi there, kittens. She was cleaning them off and shit, you know? Oh, look at that. You gave birth. Right in bed right next to me. So it was weird. Obviously, I had not experienced that before or since, but I've known Capillo since birth. The thing is, I didn't really pay much attention to. I didn't really pay much attention to the kittens. Um, I liked my cat a lot, and that's the cat I feel guilty about losing during the move to Laverne. She bolted, and it was sad. I feel guilty. And when you say that cat trusted me a lot, it makes me feel super extra guilty. So, because I really did love that cat, and I love this cat though, even I guess at least as much. I mean, this cat's a lot more difficult to love in the sense that she's pretty standoffish and wants things on her terms, and Dixie was a sweetheart. She was a real sweetheart. It's okay, Soleil. It's all right. I have my own FI demons. Everybody does. It's funny. I guess that probably if you have FI fourth, then and you sort of fail to prevent harm because of failing to care about something enough, you probably don't really blame yourself that much because it's not an absolute value and it's not something you expect yourself to be particularly good at. And so you just go, well, there's no way to avoid that. It's kind of like how I talk about feeling guilt and or responsible in some sense for Rachel's serotonin syndrome, but ultimately I think Rachel and I both feel the same way. Like there was just no way that we were going to anticipate that, given the bunch of SI shit that was informing both of our NIs about stuff going up into this like one night where we pushed hard, where we'd probably pushed her right next to the edge anyway, but weren't aware of it because of a lack of symptoms and because of the nature of something that has sort of an escape velocity quality to it. Like, it's nothing and then it's everything. Then it was sort of inevitable. We just weren't thinking there, and we didn't have any reason to. We had a lot of time to get used to Rachel just being basically not having to think about her being on any psych drugs or having psych issues or whatever because it was managing everything so well. So it was kind of inevitable. Well, that's me going like fourth slot SI, her going fourth slot SE, not really blaming ourselves because it's operational and we acknowledge our own fundamental inability, that our fundamental natures are such that we're not going to attend to those matters as priorities when other things contradict them as indicated, But I do feel like guilty for the FI aspect of it, like failing to prevent harm to that which is precious to me, regardless of whether I could. There's a sense of if I had cared more, I would have taken more active role in thinking about it or whatever. Like, there's that, which is a much more real kind of guilt that I feel than I should have done something differently, which I know I kind of couldn't have, you know? The odd numbered ones, 1, 3, 5, and 7, are absolute values, and 2, 4, 6, and 8 are instrumental values. The thing is, it's easy for people to mistake their second slot function for an absolute value because it's an operational value, which means it's the value you expect the world to uphold when communicating with you or dealing with you, and if it fails to, then you get angry. So it's like, since I'm a TI person, if I'm trying to communicate with somebody and they're trying to use FI as a tool function and I'm trying to use TI as a tool function, I'm going to get angry at them because they're basically invalidating the capacity of me to take the kind of action I normally take and have an effect, and vice versa, you know? So, what was I answering there? Something. No, I won't keep beating myself up. The thing about me is, it's as much a matter of mood as it is anything else. You know, it's like there are harsh realities, and if I'm in a good mood, it's very easy for me to compartmentalize and not think about those. And if I'm in a bad mood, then those just happen to be convenient to grab at as things that I can feel bad about, I guess. Right now, I'm in a pretty post sleepy week state, although kind of artificially here. Why do you put haha in front of it? Regardless, um, so I don't think of ESTPs as being assholes. You know, my daughter's a real sweetheart, although she's also kind of like a tough bitch. You know, like if you've been in a live stream where she's participated, you know what I'm talking about. She's she's not inclined to take any shit really. She answers the questions she wants to answer. She talks about things she wants to talk about to the extent that she wants to talk about them. And then she's just like, yeah. Um. Okay. I'm gonna, in fact, see if I can get Delilah to come join me for a live stream. I'm going to go into the proverbial Google Meet room. I've invited her to it actually by a calendar. And I think I'll text her and see. She said she might be down to do this later tonight, so who knows? Maybe she is. Pew, 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 pew. Los Angeles. What is this fucking app? I don't like it. I don't want it on my phone. Hey Delilah, you should join me for a live stream in the Google Meet link. Why? Why would you call that? So, voice to text interpreted that as Google Meet Lamp. MEAT. I sent you an invite via email. Like, why? What in the world kind of horrible voice to text would interpret Google Meet Link as Google Meet Lamp? MEAT. Oh, I mean, for sure. You know, I respect ESTPs as going out there and concretizing what ENTPs talk about. So it's like I'm likely to complain a lot about various COVID policies and stuff, but I'm not likely to fail to comply with them. Which is, you need both in the world. You need somebody to say, okay, I'll comply while making the arguments, because you're empowered to make certain arguments by complying that you aren't able to make if you're not complying. But you also need people in the world to go, fuck off, I'm not going to comply with your bullshit. Google Meet Lamp. I mean, really. What's a meat lamp? If you shoot enough electricity into a steak, it lights up, I guess. It's a filament that Thomas Edison didn't quite get around to trying. Ground chuck. Turns out the ground chuck makes the best light bulb filament of all. Isn't that amazing? Light bulbs are an interesting thing. You know, we could have light bulbs that last a lot longer than they do. If you do, that's true. If you spontaneously combust, you're temporarily a meat lamp. Now, that assumes really, though, Legends Fall, that you both spontaneously combust and that somebody places you someplace to illuminate something or carries you around like this to illuminate something. Otherwise, you're not really a lamp, although you may be providing lamp-like services. If there's nobody to enjoy what's being illuminated by your fires, I mean, unless you're yourself, or finally I'm able to read this thing, thanks to my spontaneous combustion. I was struggling to read it in the dark prior. Then, sure. Yeah. Meat lamp is the number one dish at Eric's Moon Restaurant. We take moon cow meat and we shape it in the shape of a lamp, and you eat it. What kind of lamp? Why, a Tiffany lamp, of course. That's the fanciest kind. Do you think Delilah's going to show up? No, we don't, Eric. I don't really think so either. She might. You never know. She's not really a big fan of other people's ideas, like of things to do. She was telling me earlier she was going to play World of Warcraft. It's been a long time since she's played that. If you want to be a glow stick, you've got to be a certain amount of radioactive before you turn into a meat lamp. Or you could just have eaten a bunch of bioluminescent plankton or something. Like that time Rachel and I went to the beach and we saw the blue waves. Blue waves, Eric? Yes, blue waves. It's true. The waves were blue with the light from the photoluminescent creatures Because my penis glows with an unearthly glow, they call it my meat lamp. When spelunking one time with my friends, on all of our flashlights mysteriously ran out of batteries at the same time. We had no choice but to make our way via the unearthly glow of my meat lamp. We aren't friends anymore. Hi, James Carolus. This is somebody who comes to your door at Christmas time, holding sheet music, dressed up in Christmas regalia, and then just stands there silently. Why? Because he's carolus. He has no carols. Why did he even go caroling? It's impossible to say. Has anybody ever made that joke to you before, James Carolus? Or do they just point out that you must be without any carols? Like the lady. Because there are ladies named Carol. Right? That's a name. Or is it just Karen? Is Carol a name? Carol sounds like a name. It is, I think. I think Carol, Kathy, Carolyn. How has humanity survived the Dark Ages? Question for ESTPs. Humanity survived the Dark Ages with my meat lamp, obviously. Well, clearly, James Carolus, you need more people besides you in your life making jokes about your name. Thank God you're here. Thank God I'm here to make jokes about it. Like, for example, Alec T. People always teasing him because his last name's only one letter. It's like, that's not a last name. T. Cognitive functions are like the color wheel. A color is only a mode of all other colors. What does that mean? A cognitive function is only a mode of all of the other functions. It's just a matter of magnitude. Agree? No. I don't know what that gobbledygook means. In what way is green a mode of all other colors? Carolus. Carolus, huh? We survived the Dark Ages by clinging to the light of our Lord Jesus Christ. By flagellating so that we knew the pain and suffering. Okay, so that's true. Yellow and blue make green. So then green is a combination of two primary colors. But yellow and blue aren't a combination of primary colors, are they? If you're saying that white is the combination of all the colors and black is the absence of all the colors, well, that still doesn't make a singular color a mode of it. You're just saying it's within a set of all colors, but that's not very informative, really. Cognitive functions. Each cognitive function describes a certain relationship between intuition and sensing or between thinking and feeling. That's the simplest way to put it. That to be an extroverted, intuitive, dominant person, like me, means that my relationship with the intuitions and sensings is such that I mostly prioritize the putting intuitive information part of it. which means I mostly ignore the receiving intuitive information part of it, instead replacing it with a getting intuitive information part with my tool function TI. It means I mostly am concerned on a framing level rather than on a specifics level about extroverted feeling considerations, about being liked and stuff like that. It will be a determinant factor, but it's not going to be determinant in the moment probably. And it means that I'm going to undervalue or underattend to my taking care of myself, SI stuff, comfort, and necessarily the back end of that follow through on what you've got planned and stuff, you know? So it's the fact that I have an action function first necessitates that I replace the knowledge that's being ignored accordingly with an object function, getting of information instead of receiving it. So to be a putter of information, I can't concurrently be a receiver of information. And yet I still need to do some sort of process of deliberation and or some sort of epistemological process. So it's necessitated by the fact that I'm an extrovert intuitor that I've got a deliberations function next. For me, it's TI, it could be FI. These things sort of, in other words, it's the logical necessity of being of prioritizing a manner of being. That's what it means to be a personality type, is that everybody consistently defaults to you have to ultimately prioritize. Everybody chooses to specialize in their attacking of this question, or ends up specializing in attacking this question of the prime directive in one of 16 specific ways, because there are only a finite number of ways to link these relationships between intuition and sensing and between thinking and feeling. When one color is present, its opposite takes the same amount in absence? Measured in what units? I think you need to take the second half of your name away. Those words don't mean anything. Right? Those words don't mean anything. Thanks, Alex T. I will take your advice there and do that. So, because yellow is present here, what is there an equal anti-yellow of? And how do we measure that? And what does that mean? What's the anti-yellow? Blue? Red? It's so silly. Colors don't even have opposites, really. It's like they may be... I mean, what does it mean to say, like, what's the opposite of blue? Not blue? So, here we are. I guess we're live streaming. Somebody is, anyway. One of you guys must be live streaming, because I'm pretty sure it's not me. So I guess I must be chatting in the live chat right now, using some kind of magical voice to text that doesn't mistranslate everything I say into some stupid ass shit. Cluniac. Hello, Cluniac. Neo-scholasticism. The opposition of green is pink. Okay, but how do you measure how much of something there isn't? Right? You said there's an equal amount of absence of pink. But isn't the absence of pink a measurement that's to say 0? So you can't have a quantity of the absence of something. Right? if you're saying there's some sort of visual vacuum created by one color, I mean, that's at best a metaphor. And at worst, word salad. You know? Here at racialequity.com, we think that all colors are complementary. Hey, I just like to compliment you on your skin color today. Whatever color it is. It's a beautiful tone of skin. Hey, dumb genius. Nice skin color. I like it. It's beautiful. Green and pink in this instance are the same thing. Okay, but they're not the same thing. Right? So it's like, even if you want to say color is purely perceptual, and to say that it doesn't link to any physicality at all, they're still not the same perception. So, you know, it's pretty important to try to use words to mean things and not to confuse us with things that don't mean things. Just because green and pink are both colors doesn't mean they're the same. You're making a bunch of NI leaps without any sort of TI justifications. Poll question. Is Eric likelier to be the reincarnation of Ernest Hemingway? No. Socrates? Meh. Lawrence Ferlinghetti? Who's Lawrence Ferlinghetti? Socrates can suck it, you know? Maybe I will ask you more questions. Fuck you, Socrates. You're supposed to know shit, tell us. Why are you asking us questions, you know? They are mutually exclusive as a part of the same continuum. Well, in that regard, okay, what you just said there is applicable to cognitive functions. That is to say, they are mutually exclusive as part of the same continuum. But I think the mechanism is very different than the one for color that you're describing. But I guess in that regard, your claim is not without merit. It's like, the thing is, the collaborativeness and or exclusivity of things depend on where they are on the stick, right? If they're both near the center of the stick, then this never gets too high and this never gets too low, compared to them being on the ends of the stick, in which case one gets really high and one gets really low. So, if you think of all sticks being tilted this direction, diagonal, then how far away the functions are from each other, so to speak, is going to tell you how overweighted one is than the other, and it's going to define a lot of different things. The thing is, though, it's not a continuum in the sense that color is, because unlike colors, functions don't really bleed into each other that much. To the extent that they do, it's well, put it this way. Our map of cognitive functions is more binary than our map of colors. Because colors are purely experiential in terms of our linkage of meaning to thing. In other words, what we name, we can purely ascertain via experience. We can't really ascertain via cross-checking with other linguistic matters, right? So the point is that when we're talking about cognitive functions, the exclusivity of putting information versus, say, retaining information you just putting some new information rather than recapping what you just said and trying to remember it or whatever. That habit, it occurs in distinct instances one way or the other. and it occurs a finite number of times over the course of a finite number of hours. So there's this additional quality with attention that doesn't exist with color when we're talking about color, which is attention is of and by a being, and a being is constrained in time to a certain number of days, hours of existence. So you can look at a ratio of instances of what you can clearly identify as this kind of attention at the expense, naturally and unavoidably, of this other kind of attention. And you can sort of, if you were to have some means of logging all of this, or if you made the effort to do so, well, the thing is, if you did it yourself, the logging process would become the predominant kind of attention, right? So then that would mess up your evaluatory mechanism. But if somebody else were to somehow log this, then they would log multiple more instances of you creating more information and than of you organizing the information you created. And that certainly is the case with me. And you'd acknowledge that the reason it's different is because the instances are binary, not whereas in shades of color it's never really binary. You know, it's somewhere between blue and green, and who knows. The thing is, so the analogy breaks down pretty quickly because of the nature of the thing we're talking about, right? The thing that makes cognitive functions nice and concrete and legit is that there are a finite number of hours in the day, and that we can talk about instances of attention as events constrained by meaning that decides what an event is, distinct from something else, and by duration. So it's like there's these various reality checks that we can include in our analysis of it that allows us to treat it much more as a binary matter, and have to treat it as more of a binary matter, because it requires a lot more understanding than does color. And understanding comes in binaries. It doesn't come in shades. So the point is this. It's not really a continuum. It's a slotted pole. And that's why we talk about it in terms of slots. It's a continuum in the sense that if we look at the object of analysis called extroverted intuition to introverted sensing, we can describe relationships between the two along a continuum. If we look at that object of analysis independently of anything else, okay? But if we look at it as an object of analysis actually in a functioning human being, the only time it ever actually appears as an instance, then it turns out to be slotted and not a continuum. Yeah, I mean, I agree. It provoked an interesting point of discussion, and it was of value as a consequence. I think that bringing the color continuum thing into the equation is an excellent way to sort of point out where things are analogous and where they aren't, and provide additional clarity on both matters. So I'm glad you brought it up. And I'm sorry I insulted you. I tend to do that sometimes. Sorry. People sometimes mistakenly call it an ad hominem attack. But no, it's not. That's a silly thing to say. I'm not justifying an argument when I say insulting things to people. I'm just insulting them. It's not nice. I shouldn't do it. But I do sometimes. Is it possible to develop a typing system based on color theory using the symbolic aspects of the three colors that create black and the three colors that create white? Everyone would have 5 out of 6. I mean, I guess it might be possible. I'm not interested in doing so. So, you know, life can be painful, life can be sad. It's such a brainful, it's driving me mad. Life can be happy. Life can be free. Life can be eager to see you say G. Whiz, look at that. Excitement and truth. But on the other hand, life's got toll booths. Extracting from you a bit more wealth to gain further vision from Zoltar regarding your health. The End. A poem by Eric. Oh, Zoltar, surrender a bit more wealth for more guidance. Is that what he says? Something like that? Zoltar, Zoltar, Zoltar. Well, it's true, Soleil. It's true and it's important. I don't like it when people accuse me of an ad hominem fallacy. I'm not guilty of a fallacy. I'm not saying you're wrong because you're dumb. I'm just insulting you. You know, I'd rather be guilty of insulting somebody and have to apologize for insulting them than be guilty of a logical fallacy and have to say I was accordingly you shouldn't afford my affirmation or whatever I was saying any legitimacy because of my fallacious reasoning. I wouldn't want to say that. That would be horrible. It happens occasionally. I'll be guilty of some fallacy, usually equivocation. If I'm guilty of a fallacy, it's usually equivocation. Or strawmanning somebody a little bit. I've been known to strawman a person here or there. So why don't you steel man them, Eric? Why do they steel man themselves, for fuck's sake? Why? It's like, yeah, I could do better work for them sometimes, but sometimes I can't do better work for them because their position is just complete bullshit. And it's disgusting to even try, you know? I have some sense of duty to the truth. I don't want to just argue any old position that I might be able to argue more convincingly than somebody else just because I could argue it more convincingly, because it's like that's how you turn into Karl Rove.
Hello.
Hi, darling.
Just getting something to eat.
Okay. That sounds like a good plan. Let me pull up that blind so you can get out of here a little more easily than you got in.
Thank you.
Sure. I'm currently live streaming to the people about things.
I'm watching.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Oh, I love you.
I love you.
Good night, sweetie.
Good night.
Don't forget to dream plenty of bees. Dream plenty of bees tonight. Oh yeah, alright. All night tonight. Forever rock and roll girl. Oh yeah. I remember you saying that a while ago and someone in the chat calling me a sophist. I don't think you meant it how he took it. The thing is, I'm not. People might call me that, but I'm definitely not. And there is such a thing, and I'm definitely not it. That's all there is to it, you know? You know when you said some people get their ego too attached to TI, do you think that's true for me? No. Well, I mean, the other alternative, Legends Fall, as I said, would be instances of. So you can count instances of because we naturally divide things into events, and a matter before us requires a certain amount of attention, and that gets that amount of attention in certain ways. So it's like, you said something here, I think we can do better than the time spent metric. Here's my response. You could measure this in terms of its duration, but you could just measure it as an instance of a time where I responded to something by generating more or less new information to respond to it, right? And say, okay, well, there's one instance of Eric responding with extroverted intuition. If, for example, I were to tell you a story, as an example that I happened to me, probably a story I've told before, or maybe just a story that is a recent event and I'm recalling for your hearing purposes, well, then you'd say that would be an instance of SI. So, and if you were to do that, you could say, okay, here's the ratio. Now, the thing about that is, extroverted intuition in the dominant slot is definitionally linked to introverted sensing in a different way than, say, extroverted intuition in the second slot or extroverted intuition in the fifth. And so the reality is being an extroverted intuitor means incorporating certain kinds of SI into your talking. And in that regard, it's not, you're misidentifying to a certain extent the SI instances as SI instances. Rather, they'd be most correctly identified as instances of extroverted intuition accessing examples from SI in order to make a larger point that is operationally framed by TI. And I guess absolutely valued framed by NI. And designed ultimately to uphold and score points on the third slot function of FE by making me seem smart and right and cool, I guess. You know? And that's how you explain cognitive functions. It's like, so is my ego too attached to TI? I mean, it's my operational value, but being my operational value means I'm subject to critiques on it too. In other words, it's not an absolute value for me. It doesn't hurt that much for me to be wrong. The thing that I realized at some point early on with talking with famous people is the problem is that I'm not very attached to TI. By which I mean, when I do admit that I'm wrong, it's over pretty quick, right? And it doesn't seem to be a big deal. And so people don't really feel like I've gotten my due justice for being wrong in the same way that I'm handing out justice to others for being wrong. But the missing factor here is stubbornness, right? I'm not really that stubborn when I'm wrong. And a lot of people are. So when I talk about TI ego attachment, it means one of two things. I'm probably really talking about when I am asking questions in typing sessions. Some people don't like having their TI pushed on, and or really don't like having it pushed on, you know. And in that regard, I'm saying it's something that people get defensive about. And it's not, to call it ego attachment is not a good way to call that. So when I do mean that, I should just say it's something that people get defensive about. And that doesn't mean their ego is too attached to it. It just means perhaps that they've been subjected to a bunch of ontological assault on those vectors before, you know. So for your ego to be too attached to it would be to find it very painful to acknowledge you're wrong, I guess. Yeah, TI is undervalued by people in everyday life, and it doesn't play much of a role outside of these more metaphysical corners of the internet, right? Where talk isn't cheap, talk matters, because the people who are listening to it and engaging in it are those personality types for whom talk matters. If you're not a personality type for whom talk ultimately matters, for whom the map, you know, it's like we're all compelled by COVID to be more talk oriented than we've ever been before because of these weird social distancing things. The role of internet-y, video conferencey kind of chit-chatty stuff has grown to involve most everybody. There are certain types, though, who are most likely to engage in that aspect of the world with direct family members and stuff and not really expand the community. It depends on the type and stuff like that. Do the first and third functions essentially adhere to the social group and make you likable, whereas the parent function is most individualist and therefore alienating from the collective? It entirely depends on the functions. So the thing is this: people, your first function is your implicit frame of reference. It's like you will avoid things as much as you can that don't allow you to utilize your first function in some way, shape, or form. And because your first function is very diverse in its applications, usually you can find some capacity to use it in most contexts, but not always. Your third function is where you feel like you're scoring points when you succeed at that. And so whether or not that links to the external world or not, or other people, or the collective, as you say, depends on which functions it is. For me, it does. It's like for me, it's very much what you say there. It's like my first function is not inherently likable. It's just putting a lot of information out. My second function is not necessarily likable. It's just defense against critique, right? My third function is those first two things, in order for them to score points for me, require me also to be likable enough and personable enough and have good enough FE that people will actually listen to what I'm saying and take the words I'm saying on their merits rather than just rejecting them because they're not inclusive enough. So when I insult Dumb Genius for suggesting something that I don't think is a good suggestion or whatever, I'm failing to be inclusive enough in my truths to encourage people to adopt them. Now, at the same time, there's no way I could really make much out of that. I could have approached it differently. I could have found something there in the analogy that I could sort of highlight the value of more, like, and spend less time on the negationary side. My reflexive nature is to TI it and go, okay, this doesn't make any sense, or it's not Miggity or whatever, you know. You can't spell assassin without the sin and twice the ass. Good, good point. Um, well, I mean, I don't think I get defensive, Dumb Genius. I think I'm reflexively TI, which is I check things for accuracy. And when you say things that don't validate accordingly, I critique them. I'm not uniformly responsive in the same fashion to everything that people say that might be considered a critique or an idea that runs afoul of what I'm saying or something. That's not the case at all. That's not what I said. Whatever. Oh, I'm not in a particularly fighty mood right now. Not in a particularly fighty mood. Well, isn't that good for you guys? Eric's not in a particularly fighty mood. What's the title about? What does it say? I forget. Oh, you can't spell live stream without am. So true, so true. I am, therefore I live stream. I live stream, therefore I am. Either one works. I feel the need to switch it up for a bit, having been talking now for 2 hours. I think I'm going to play the guitar for a little bit. I don't know if it'll be the end of the stream or not. Depends how I feel, but I want to play the guitar for a little bit. Hey, Boba Fett, this is social media right here. This is social media that you are currently enjoying. You're soaking in it, buddy. You're soaking in it. And I want you to appreciate the glory of what you're soaking in. Don't you tell me that it's cancerous. There's nothing cancerous about my warm metaphysical head pats on you. There, Boba Fett. It's okay. It's okay. You're okay. I'm okay. We're okay. Everything's okay. There. There, motherfucking there. That's some serious sensitivity. When you throw an MF bomb in there, you know you're serious about being sensitive. You know, that's when your baby can really tell you care. There, sweetie, there. There, motherfucking there. And your baby stops crying. Okay, mom does care. It's how to indicate you're serious, you know, in life. Got to drop an MF bomb. I'm molting feathers serious. You're molting feathers serious. Yeah. MF and serious. That's what that stands for, isn't it? It's like how birds are serious when they molt. It was 100,000 million years ago. Time ran slow. Nobody yet to show place the slabs below. Let them go. They will start to grow. More years ensue and tears gnashing through. Oh, holy slabs coming to view. Unchangingly true and eternally new. For when the slope appears in charge today, options large show other ways. Give each a chance now. Once quick to check, but don't get caught standing on deck. The slope presents a fork. It's not easy stopping short. Too far along to turn around. Perhaps the better course was headed ever north. Now there's a fitter force, enemy ground. It was 100,000 million years ago. Time ran slow. Nobody yet to show place the slabs below. Let them go. They will start to grow. More years ensue and tears gnashing through. A holy slabs coming to view. Unchangingly true and eternally new. Oh, when the slope appears in charge today, options large show other ways. Give each a chance now. Once quick to check, but don't get caught standing on deck. The slope presents a fork. It's not easy stopping short. Too far along to turn around. Perhaps the better course was headed ever north. Now there's a fitter force, enemy ground. It was 100,000 million years ago. I fucked it up in a couple spots. Because I'm a big fuck up, that's why. Are you really? Oh yeah. Oh yeah, Soleil. You were a pioneer of back problems, they used to call you. A real pioneer. What do I feel in my heart? You might call me a rambling man, 'cause I do a lot of thumbing and a kicking canes, but it won't do an answer good to call me names. My daddy wasn't Willie Woodrow, I wasn't born and raised in no ghetto, just a white boy looking for a place to do my thing. I don't want no handout living, don't want any part of anything they giving. I'm brown and white and got a song to sing. Well, I said a few things and I'll admit it. If you wanna get ahead, you gotta hump and get it. Just a white boy looking for a place to do my thing. I'm gonna find me a wealthy woman in a line of work that don't take no diploma, 'cause I ain't got much to lose but a lot to gain. You might call me a good time fella, but I ain't no black and I ain't no yellow. Just a white boy looking for a place to do my thing. And you wanna know I ain't that living, no more any part of anything they giving. I'm proud and white and got a song to sing. Well, I said a few things and I'll admit it. If you wanna get ahead, you gotta hump and get it. Just a white boy looking for a place to do my thing. Small town Billy ride a little, I like a car and I like a fiddle, 'cause that's the sort of soul that can fan my plane. A blue-eyed Billy feared and ready, I gotta work just to be somebody. Just a white boy looking for a place to do my thing. I don't want no handout living, don't want any part of anything they giving. I'm proud and white and got a song to sing. Well, I said a few things and I'll admit it. If you wanna get ahead, you gotta hump and get it. Just a white boy looking for a place to do my thing. Well, I said a few things and I'll admit it. If you wanna get ahead, you gotta hump and get it. Just a white boy looking for a place to do my thing. That's a nice song. That's fun. That's a fun little bit of 1970s country racially offensive music. If you love offensive music, you're gonna love that song. That's one of the best offensive songs ever written. And it's a good one, you know? We need to know. We need to see. We need to pen happenings down by means to judge a logic to life we divisively unlike, and from which we'll rarely budge. People People everywhere gather up, enemies outraged at how they miss a sign. How do they set their priorities? These starving, backstabbing entities, ensuing heartache and misery follow necessarily from their knowledge ways. Insulting Carson and Desiree, we're stuck with such petty larceny. We all partition the rectories and call it destruction of the whole damn world. Judy shares now her limits, hoping Judy will too. Mary shares for 4 minutes. They just can't share things like they do. And Judy soon forgot all about it and all that she had recalled that she will die. Judy should have bought it when she had time to, and she had the chance to buy. People everywhere gather up, enemies outraged at how they miss a sign. How do they set their priorities? These foreign backstabbing entities, ensuing heartache and misery follow necessarily from their savage ways. Insulting Carson and Desiree, we're stuck with such petty larceny. We all partition arteries and call it destruction of the whole damn world. Whoa. Well, that was fairly mediocre. I guess that's why they call me Old Mediocre Eric. What with this mediocrity and all? Captivating audiences worldwide with his mediocrity. It's a very cloudy day in Los Angeles, and today we run out of time. Struggles past, troubles still to come. The day is nearly done. Will someone buy us some more time? Cloudy day in Los Angeles, cloudy day in LA. I'm no sort of evangelist, but I have something to say. Life can strangely be forgiving to those who stay awake all night, and mostly this is say given. They'll try to sap your will to fight, but whether I'm supposed to be here or just be soon forgotten, noise is sort of based on what I see here and also on what I avoid. It's a very cloudy day in Los Angeles, and today we run out of time. Struggles past, troubles still to come. The day is nearly done. Can someone buy us some more time? Cloudy day in Los Angeles, cloudy day in LA. I'm no sort of evangelist, but I have something to say, something to say. Here's Gregory in disguise, hands in his pockets. Now he's walking down the drive. Averts his eyes. He doesn't want you guys to realize that he's Gregory in disguise, hands in his pockets. Now he's walking down the drive, averts his eyes. He doesn't want you guys to realize Gregory in disguise. He hates the lies, wants to confront the men, always telling them, but every time he tries, they only run and hide. Again he is denied the chance to yell at them. So now he's Gregory in disguise, hands in his pockets. Now he's walking down the drive, averts his eyes. He doesn't want you guys to realize that he's Gregory in disguise, hands in his pockets. Now he's walking down the drive, averts his eyes. He doesn't want you guys to realize that he's Gregory in disguise. He hates the lies, wants to confront the men, always telling them, but every time he tries, they only run and hide. Again he is denied the chance to yell at them, until the bridge brings a new approach. Sneakily he'll try to encroach up on the guilty, then perhaps he'll get the chance to yell at them. Till then he is Gregory in disguise, hands in his pockets. Now he's walking down the drive, averts his eyes. He doesn't want you guys to realize that he's Gregory in disguise, hands in his pockets. Now he's walking down the drive, averts his eyes. He doesn't want you guys to realize that he's Gregory in disguise, hands in his pockets. Now he's walking down the drive, averts his eyes. He doesn't want you guys to realize that he's Gregory in disguise. That's enough guitar. That's enough guitar for 1 billion trillion years. No, not for 1 billion trillion years. That's too long. How about 1 minute? El Nino, my ass. You call those storms? Where is the rain? Those drizzles don't count, I drizzle more when I pee in the sink, which is just the right height to catch all of the undesired splatter. Outside and climb a ladder. I will go up there and take me a bucket and pour water inside. And I'll say, hey, Mr. Cloud, drop it from the bottom. Hey, Mr. Cloud, won't you drop it from the bottom? Hey, Mr. Cloud, drop it from the bottom on me. That's a good song to end on. I only have a finite number of songs memorized. It's always a decision like, okay, well, do I want to open up the Google Docs or not, you know? If I don't, then I've got a finite number of songs. Don't be getting sketchy meat. That's Eliana's message to the world. When she's giving world mic power, her message is, don't be getting sketchy meat. You took my advice and watched my vids? Oh, well, thanks. I do advise people to watch my videos when they ask me a bunch of questions, especially. I don't know exactly who you are or anything, but I appreciate you informing me of that. Look, I look years younger thanks to this facelift, don't I? What exactly does the world mic power display for functions? Well, I'm looking for a couple of things. People will usually express some one of their absolute values. Oh, you're that one. I remember you. You're cool. I like you. You're classic. You're classic ENTP. From the fuzz down to the meat, down to the bones. You got excessive ENTP syndrome like me. Welcome to the club of people with excessive ENTP syndrome. You know, did we determine if you are a 7 or not, lady? And here's the reason I ask this question. To attain maximal ENTP-hood, you really should be like 100% an Enneagram 7 as well. And then you get to be eternal baby, like me. Eric the Eternal Baby. That's what the other channel, that's the other name for this channel. Somebody asked me how this got to be, well, Lulubot, let me tell you something. I'm going to tell you something right now. I'm going to ask you something. How do you deal with fear? Do you try to learn everything about it so it's not scary anymore? Do you dig into your existing resources of information and try to use them to address the upcoming fear? Say a looming deadline or whatever. Or do you bury your head in the sand and go like, just ignore that until I have to at the last minute deal with it? Which one is it? Which one is it? Which one do you say? Do you say the first, the second, or the third today? That will tell you 5 or 6 or 7 perhaps then. You'll know if you're a 5 or 6 or 7. When you give the answer to this question, go ahead and answer now. Which one is the one that smells the most like a moon cow? You can't tell by smelling moon cows, because even when rancid, moon cows smell delicious. Moon cows don't count. The moon cows are not subject to the USDA's authority. Eliana Diaz. Are you a fan of moon cows? Like I'm a fan of moon cows. Do you believe that cows graze on the moon? Our radioactive experiments have created our moon cow friends who graze upon the moon. So you think you're a 5 or a 6, but not a 7. Well, you're more responsible than me probably, Lulu. Shame on you. Shame on you for being so grown up. Okay? I am currently mastering the art of eternal child. You're going to be denied that mastery that I'm attaining right now because you're not a 7. That means you don't procrastinate enough. You don't insist on playing constantly enough. And that's why you're going to be more successful than me. So shame on you. Shame on you for being the wrong Enneagram type. Sounds like somebody who doesn't have money problems. You can count moon cows for sleep, sure. You know what helps also to help you sleep is to drink a tall glass of warm moon cow milk. Sometimes simply called moon milk or moon-elk. Moon-elk. Rachel Gerard was the last ESFP. I believed. I believed. Yeah. I believed. If you're watching TWFP, you're probably procrastinating from something. I believed. Yeah. I believed. Yeah. To make any song into a better song, you should add yeah. Who agrees with me? I think we should add yeah, and also All Night Long Girl, or Baby All Night, or Till the Morning Light. Any of those things are fine. I've encountered plenty of typing sessions where they say, no, I don't procrastinate. But maybe Lady Lou is not Lulubot. Don't get them confused. Just because they both have Lou in their name doesn't mean they're the same person, okay? Lulubot is named Lulubot because she's chosen her name after a robot named Lulu. Lady Lou is named Lucifer. That's why she's named that. Guitar solos don't make things cool, okay? Don't get that confused. You're confusing guitar solos with cigarettes. Cigarettes, the cool maker. I don't know, Karma's Pimp. God, stop asking me to SI. It's like, whoa, bro, whoa, you're crossing my personal boundaries. You are crossing my personal boundaries. You're asking me to remember something. You're forgetting that I'm a baby. All I remember is that I like titty. And that sometimes I gotta pee. Sometimes I feel sad. You know. Sometimes my knee bounces irrepressibly. Oh, it's not Lucifer. My mistake. I assumed. You know what happens when people assume? They make an ass out of themselves. That's not how the expression goes, Eric. It is now. Because I'm Eric, Expression King. And I decide when expressions say things. Oh, Eric, Expression King. Tell us more about expressions. From now on, a stitch in time is only going to say 8. Okay? Everybody write that down. I'm the Expression King. Call your friends and family, let them know about the change. Hello, Aunt June? Yes, it's me, Lou. Yes, Lucifer, me. Just want to let you know, stitch in time will now only save 8. No, Lulubot. This is what happens when you assume. You make an ass out of you. And me, I'm over here doing something sensible. That's what you should say with that expression. That's what I say. Go ahead and cop it. It's worth copping. Always cop the good things. There you go. Well, hey, that's what happens when you assume you make an ass out of you. And me, I'm over here doing nothing but nothing of the sort. There's a politician in Namibia named Adolf Hitler. Wow. I wonder if he thought, hey, this name could work. There's been a successful politician already named this once before. Maybe I could follow in his footsteps. It's like naming your nuclear power plant Chernobyl. Well, hey, maybe I've got a future as a nuclear power plant. After all, for many years there was a perfectly functioning nuclear power plant called Chernobyl. Many years. Hey, stop putting fake stuff in processed meat, guys. Let's put real stuff in real meat. Processed. Can you imagine processed meat? You know, one of the things they do at the butcher, I can't believe how unnatural this is. They sometimes process my meat by grinding it into ground beef. Can you believe that? It's like, hey, stop processing my food so much. I don't like 90 Day Fiancé. I've never watched it, but I know I don't like it without even watching it because I can just feel myself cringing through the whole thing. It's hey, don't knock me on until you've tried it, Boba Fett. What I want you to do next time you get a bag of chicken nuggets is I want you to extract all the chicken and eat the other 35%, the meow. You'll find it tastes exactly the same as the chicken. Whatever it is. It's meow. It takes on the form of many things. Tastes just like chicken. Manu Chernobyl. It sounds like a basketball player's name. And then there's a tall kid from like Georgia whose parents named him Three Mile Island Smittens. You know, his last name is Smittens. 3 Mile Island Smittens. Why did you name your kid 3 Mile Island? We thought it sounded fancy. That was before it melted down, of course. Like, you know, I named Delilah before they wrote that song, Hey There Delilah. So when I named Delilah, I didn't have that song in mind at all, or wasn't aware of it existing because it didn't exist yet. Oh, well, Boba Fett, you missed talking about the moon cows. So, moon cows and Manu Chao obviously get along well together because they speak with similar sounding names. Moon cow, Manu Chao. Manu Chao is one of the Earth's leading consumer of moon cow meat. It's really expensive to get it imported back to Earth. Most of it gets consumed on the moon by moon cow ranchers, moon cow town merchants and such, people visiting my Eric's Moon restaurant. And of course, how did we seed the moon with cows? We shot nuclear weapons at the moon and included bags of grass seed and cows strapped to the nuclear bomb. That way, any one of the cows or seeds that survived the ground zero of a nuclear blast, plus the atmosphere of, or lack thereof, of the moon, is sure to be a hardy instance of the species, and therefore able to reproduce and 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 provide us moon cow meat for centuries, if not millennia, to come. With the moon populated by only 3 species, moon cows, grass, and people, moon grass, I guess you should call it, really. Moon cows, moon grass, and people. It's a simple ecosystem, you know. You might say, well, where does the moon grass get water from? Well, the moon grass, it soaks up moisture from the soil and then releases it, making small clouds over itself and thereby watering itself in a constantly repeating cycle that never runs out of water. No, unfortunately, Eliana, the low gravity of the moon prevents the proper making of cheese. As cheese, as it turns out, is a gravity-dependent product. Without gravity, your cheese turns into yogurt. But it's yogurt without bacteria. So it's just goo, basically. It's just sour goo. It's not even sour cream. You don't even want to try to make cheese on the moon. They don't have dairy cows on the moon. They just have meat cows, okay? You can milk the cows on the moon, but if you do, their milk immediately turns rancid. It's got to go straight from the teat into the baby cow. It's the moon rays. Because the moon doesn't have as much atmosphere, it suffers from moon rays, which cause milk to go bad quickly. They're really sun rays, but they're hitting the moon, so we call them moon rays in the moon ray community, where we do a lot of moon ray discussion. I'm the leader of the Moon Ray Historical Society. The thing is, the whole moon smells like rancid moon cow milk. So it's impossible to tell. The entire moon smells like it. Fortunately, it's a kind of pleasant, sickly sweet smell. No, not like bad. It's more like old ointment that started to get kind of hard. Like, what's that kind of gamey, sweetish smell? The first person to watch a TWFP stream on the moon can't partake in the ritualistic eating of plentiful cheese. Now, well, I mean, the thing is, obviously, you have to bring cheese with you when you go to the moon. That's the moral of the story. You've gotten it completely backwards. Oliver, you've gotten it completely backwards. You thought the moral of the story was there's no cheese on the moon. The moral of the story is at least half of your luggage should be filled with cheese when you go to the moon, because you're not going to be able to get any moon cheese there. Well, it actually says a sweetish smell, but it is Swedish as well. It's the gamey smell of a Swede midwinter, burrowed up in their flat in downtown Sweden town. What's the capital of Sweden? Swedentown? Hey, welcome to Swedentown. Stockholm. Oh, Stockholm. You know what's great about Stockholm? They get a syndrome named after them. There's no Los Angeles syndrome. Well, I don't blame you, Jack. That's a trigger word for you. Cheese, dairy, cow, milk, cream cheese, sour cream cheese. Did I say yogurt? Greek yogurt. All of these things are trigger words for you. Sending you PTSD, expecting an IED to explode right next to you. Oh, it's deep. It is deep. I am nothing if not extremely deep. Imagine the deepest part of the ocean called the Mariana Trench. I'm like 5 times deeper than that. At least 5 times. Maybe more. Oliver Linehan isn't 15 now. He's saying, tell that to my 15-year-old self who used to do that. God, Eliana Diaz. Read it correctly. God. Yeah. If I said, Eliana Diaz, tell that to 15-year-old Eric eating frozen pizzas out of the freezer and ice cream, that's it. Would you say, oh, Eric, you're 15? You might, because I do look like I'm 15. I could blend in as a sophomore, I think. Don't you think so? You're 9.1 years old, Oliver? I had no idea you were that young. Oliver's 9.1 years old. Wow. Maybe you're a little young to be a moderator, Oliver. Maybe that's too much power for you to have. I guess I wouldn't terribly mind physically bullying The Rock. That would probably be kind of entertaining, people to say. Or like, who's that really tough guy who fights MMA? His name's like Colin something, maybe, or what's his name? That fighter guy who's tough. McGregor. You know. Yeah, Colin McGregor. See, that would be funny if I were to physically bully Colin McGregor. We'd get a videotape of me being like, hey, you better watch it, Colin McGregor, or I'm going to smack you one. And then he's actually like, oh my God, no, not you, Eric. Please, no. And he tries to come at me. And I just go like, pop. And he goes, ow, oh my God, ow. I just think it'd be funny. If I somehow successfully bullied Colin McGregor. Conor McGregor, whatever his name is. I don't got any problem with the guy, actually. I just think he's the toughest guy I could think of, right? The tougher somebody is, the more funny it would be for me to bully them. Whoever the toughest guy in the world is, for Eric to be all SE about it. You better watch out, man. I know Kung Fu. And then they're like laughing and come up and try to punch me or whatever. And I go, hi-ya! jump. And they go, ah, oh my God, Buck, dude, you broke my cheekbone. I'm going to get you this time. And they come at me again, and I go, pow. And they go, oh, and they puke up everything. And then somebody's filming and puts on YouTube, like, old guy uses fake karate to kick actual tough guys' butt. That would be interesting. That would be fun. Nobody. I don't want to physically bully anybody, actually. Even super tough guys like that. What sorts of alcohol have I had? You name it, lady. You name it. You name it, I drank it. Alcohol and I had a vibrant, loving relationship for a long time. Sure, it was volatile. Sure, it was abusive. But, yeah, I'm not big into bullying at all. When I feel like I've been a bully, I feel really bad later about it. It makes me feel like sadness and sorrow, shame and anxiety, suffering and sorrow, sadness and suffering. That's no fun. Sometimes I do feel like a bully. Sometimes I am a bit of a bully, depending on who I'm dealing with and on the circumstances. Sometimes I think never physically. It's always verbally, but sometimes I think the person richly deserves it, but I generally end up thinking ultimately like I wish I had been a little bit less yeah or something. I don't know. These are the days of our lives. Like the sands to the hourglass, these are the days of our lives. Let's just deal with the fact. Let's just live it. But even when I bully the bullies, I feel guilty. That's the truth. Or feel bad. Because everybody's human, you know? And it's like, it sucks that somebody had to get their foot up my ass, ultimately, on a sort of just a raw level, even if it was necessary and they needed it and stuff. I take no joy in the delivery of the foot up the ass. Even if I do in the moment, I really don't, and I certainly don't long term. It feels like it has to be done sometimes. I mean, I would say you make a good distinction there, Lulubot, and it's the former, it's not the latter. Yeah, it's what Lulubot says there. I stick up for people who are bullied. I don't ignore bullying when I see it, and it makes me angry, and I can be very, I guess, intimidating when I'm angry. But in those instances, it's the natural consequence of somebody behaving badly in front of me. I don't go seek out people to shit on because I can justify it because they're bad or something. I'm not like that at all. Alcohol makes you mean and whiny. You know what I love? I love it when Oliver drinks alcohol. He gets so mean and whiny. It's just what I'm looking for in a drinking companion. Well, I mean, it's very easy for me to tell, Jack, what's acceptable behavior and what's not. It's really easy. I don't have any problem telling at all. You know, if someone's being disingenuous, dishonest, trying to pull some bullshit, and I'm calling them on it, and they're not wanting to hear my words and respond to it, then they've got accountability avoidance syndrome, and they need my foot up their ass. It's that simple. It's like it's like with Rachel's mom. How do you know that her shit was bullshit? For the various reasons I've articulated. But it's no, but it's not. Look, the thing is, the reason what's acceptable to me is a good criterion is because I was raised in a really healthy way, in a really loving way, and I know what good loving relationships are. You clearly have less robust relationship with that reality than I do, and that's okay, but it doesn't mean that there aren't objectively healthy and unhealthy ways of dealing with people, and I can, in fact, distinguish them. I could give you a lot of specific details, but in each instance, it's going to be a conglomerate of particulars that make me determine that, in fact, this behavior of this person is abusive. And we can determine whether a given behavior is abusive by whether or not it's intended to cause suffering or make the other person uncomfortable or control them for the sake of doing so. If it is, then it qualifies accordingly. Well, what I just said, Jack Torrance, so it doesn't matter if I was pampered or not, when another party who purports to be a loved one is intentionally, willfully causing you suffering, discomfort, or trying to control you for the sake of doing so, which is to say, without any legitimate cause, then we can conclude that that comprises unacceptable behavior. It's very straightforward. You may have trouble distinguishing moments like that from others, but I don't. I mean, granted, I retain ambiguity until I'm sure. That's the story about Rachel's mother. Is I need to see her pull something specific that violated very clear NITI grounds that allowed me to go, okay, this is totally illegitimate. And I got to see it in person. Until that moment, I wasn't sure. But once I'm sure, then that's it. You are the moment. Congratulations. That's what everybody wants to be. The moment. Right. Well, I mean, I'm only likely to intervene when two people are bickering if there's a power differential that's being exploited by one of them. So it's like if I see a man beating on a woman, I'm likely to intervene. If I see a parent beating on their kid or something, I'm definitely going to intervene. Or dog or animal, I'm definitely going to intervene. But if I see two dudes arguing, I'm not going to intervene. It's not my business. You know, two dudes. It depends what it looks like, too. If it looks like one's being subjected to some sort of crime or something, then I might call the cops or something like that, you know. Legitimately disciplining his wife. That's ridiculous. You're joking, even though you're one of the dominant elites. You're making hilarious jokes. You know what? I'm offended by your hilarious jokes. No, I don't. Jack, I don't have to do that at all. I mean, I could conceive of a circumstance in which a chick was beating on a dude and I felt the need to intervene. But I probably drink 20 cups of coffee a day. You guys with your misogyny. Listen, I'm what's known as a feminist, okay? So I'm not cool with all this anti-chick talk, alright? I'm in favor of chicks. I'm pro-chick. So all you He-Man Woman Haters Club people can just shove it. Alright? Because I'm a feminist. Rhymes with reminisced. So everybody remember that, please. That Eric doesn't want to hear your misogyny. He's offended by it. He believes in the power of Sacagawea, the power of Pocahontas, and the power of course, Susan B. MF and Anthony. Okay? Yeah, that's a good question, Oliver. If misogyny is a problem, then one would assume correct ogeny is not a problem, right? What if you, when you defend the woman, she replies, "How dare you?" Well, I mean, I'd probably approach the circumstance by saying, "Do you need any help?" And see how it went from there, you know? Did you read Orlando, Virginia Woolf? No, I didn't. Well, I mean, if she said that, then I'd say, okay, my bad, and walk away. I mean, people say stupid shit all the time. You say stupid shit all the time, but you don't see me avoiding encountering your words. You know? It's like I tried to talk to that one lady at the Pomona police thing, right? I tried to explain my position, and then when she wasn't listening to me and F.I. tooling, and then she just said, "Fuck off, weirdo." I said, okay, well, whatever. And turned around and walked away. What else can you do? You know? Sometimes people are idiots. Not my fault. I mean, why would it be blowing me away? I mean, she'd be answering my reasonable question, "Do you need help?" with no, with a bunch of other shit, which would seem very odd, given the circumstances in which I would have to find myself in which to ask that. You're just a part of the He-Man Woman Haters Club. That's the problem, Jack. You need to knock that off because it's silly. Listen, Jack, you need to sing to yourself the following thing. I don't want to wait for my life to be over before I get this chip upon my shoulder off of yeah. You need to sing that song. You've got what's known as a chip on the shoulder. And you know what? It's weighing you down, my friend. It's making you feel blue, making you feel angry, making you feel frustrated, making you affirm nonsense, etc. I'm going to just go ahead and absolve you of it right now. You are free, my friend. You are free to be whoever you are without hating chicks. Amen. This is the third part of the sacrament, the breath of Christ. I mean, that's not a misogynistic value to think that seeing a woman who might potentially be in distress might cause me to go over and ask her if she needs help. As indicated, I could come up with a scenario in which I would do the same for a man being wailed on by a woman. The fact that you want to frame it like this is the problem here, Jack, and you're going to have to accept that at some point. Or not, but regardless, no. So it was spake, thus it was spoken, so it was so, and everyone knew that it was true. Amen. Feminist does rhyme with pen and fist. Pretty well, anyway. Feminist pen and fist. As you like it, huh? I like it slow and sensual. Okay, well, that's what this play will be then. I did say that. I said I could think of a circumstance. I mean, that's the point, Jack, is that these things don't occur except at actual instances. And the particulars of them are the determinant factor in what one ought to do. One's capacity to intuit the singular truth from those particular factors is the NI process. It's not always reducible, but it's nevertheless the case. So it's how it is. Hi, Winston's mom. I'm doing pretty well. Jack's being his normal chip on the shouldery self. But you know, he's like that cranky Uncle Joe. Comes over and complains about Biden the whole time at Thanksgiving dinner. It's like, okay, Uncle Joe. Nobody cares about that, but okay. Like, be pleasant. We're at Thanksgiving dinner right now. We should be talking about how much thanks we have for our Native American friends. Fennel-kissed does rhyme pretty well with feminist. Rhymes pretty well with a Fleming gist as well. So a Fleming gist is the gist of something Flemish, I guess. A Flemish gist. How about a phlegmless chest? You know, I think I saw a feminist. I breathed from out this phlegmless chest. I picked among which glen is best. Which glen of trees is best? Glen is best rhymes with feminist pretty well. So, Glen is best, and then, what was the first one again? Phlegmless chest, right? And, men with crests. Men with crests, phlegmless chests, Okay, I know. Pen and fist works better because fist rhymes with nist and the other things are nest. I get it. I know, okay? You don't need to shame me for my failure all the time. Chesty LaFemless, now playing with pen and fist. Flimless chest doesn't really rhyme with feminist. I'm going to acknowledge that. Not nearly so well as it does. Well, I mean, men and fist. Feminist, more like men and fist. Sounds like something the He-Man Woman Haters Club would say, you know. I got word for every person in the world. Okay? There ain't no good reason to hate chicks. If gender isn't real, why do you ascribe to that archaic He-Man Woman Haters Club trope? Who said gender isn't real? I mean, I'm fluidly transgender, and that's real. It's super real. Right now, I'm super manly. Sometimes I get medium manly, sometimes I get kind of girly. You know? It depends. Right now, I'm super manly. And that's really how it is. Right? Women make up their mind just fine. That's silly. What is silly? I'm both, Boba Fett. As I've explained before, I mostly go from super manly to regular manly and back again in my transgenderism, but occasionally I'll slip down into girliness. It depends. I never turn into a full girl, though. Well, Jack, if you're a chick, then you're a part of the woman's haters club, and that's even sillier, because then you're just a self-loather. You see? You see what I'm saying? The problem is the woman haters club part, not the fact that you get to pick which one you are. Well, no, you're in the woman haters club. It's just as stupid. Because you've mistaken which part of it is stupid. It's the haters club part. Yep, that sums it up. Poor Rachel broke another bong. She feels embarrassed about it, I think. But, you know, like Soleil says, why be a man or a woman when you can be a meat lamp? It's an excellent point. Only those of us who are blessed with the holy glowing junk of God's blessed genitals know what it means to be a meat lamp. Sometimes that light pours out from the vagina of a blessed woman. Sometimes it pours out from my man meat, lighting the way for all of humanity. Follow the light of Eric's penis as I stride forth into the darkness. A glow from my junk, illuminating the otherwise dank and dark tunnel that we all descended down. Well, in this particular instance, Oliver Linehan, I would ascribe the broken bong more to her symptoms of her serotonin syndrome, probably, than to her normal knock shit overiness. So, it's a little harder to say in this instance. But I don't know. She she's still affected enough by the serotonin syndrome that when she was trying to cut a Klonopin in half. Oh, no. Jack, just because something's fluid doesn't mean I can't make claims about it. It's unfalsifiable either way. So both of our claims are equally valid. Regarding your gender. You can't have it both ways, you see. You keep trying to have it both ways. But it doesn't work like that. That's the beauty about arbitrary shit, is if we want to agree it's arbitrary, then it's arbitrary both ways. So, you don't get to say that. Or at least I don't have to listen to it, because we've already agreed it's arbitrary. There's nothing else to say about it. Of course, when we behave as we normally do, which is as though it's not arbitrary, then we get back to the central point, which is you're part of the He-Man Woman Haters Club. And you got a chip on your shoulder because of it. And I don't know if this truth will help you or hurt you with that, but it is, in fact, the truth. Again, within that frame of reference, no discourse matters because everything's arbitrary. And so, if you want to stay in that frame of reference, then stay in that frame of reference. But you're normally in the exact opposite frame of reference. So, that's reality too. In other words, what you want to do is be able to switch frames of reference without acknowledging there's been a switch of frame of reference. Right? To say that, well, because we talk about gender like this in this frame of reference, that when I can switch back out to another frame of reference and take those rules from that I wish and leave those realities that I don't behind, it doesn't work like that, you know? I mean, that's one thing that can't be fluid, right? Your frame is definitively what it is for the arguments you're making, implied, implicit, or explicit, or whatever. And you might change it, and that would indicate that you're not metacogniting enough, or that you're attached to a particular frame or frame locked or whatever. But I don't know. I've explained this stuff before. Just stop. Year of the Monkey, a metal monkey even. Is that what year it is right now? Is it the year of the monkey? It's the time of the season of monkeys. I didn't know they had a season of monkeys. It's when all the typhoons rain nothing but monkeys down upon the villages. Year of the tiger. Rawr. My daughter's a tiger. Maybe she'll have a good year. Rachel says that, according to numerology, it's not a good year for her. I'm not sure what she. I don't remember what exactly she said about me in my year. Some of those numerology things seem to resonate a lot, you know? It's weird. I don't know what to make of it, but it's interesting. Oh, okay. $22. I'm a Taurus. Dream lover. I'm a Taurus. I'm a bull. In Chinese astrology, I'm the year of the pig. I like to say I'm a little piggy, not a boar or a sow. I'm the little piggy saying wah 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 all the way home. Well, then, Jack, I guess this space isn't safe enough for you. Maybe you should choose to remove yourself from the space accordingly. You're a tiger as well, and you'd think it would be, but apparently it's not a good year for tigers, according to the article I read the other day. Huh, well. My daughter's not starting off with a good year. She already had to cancel a trip to New York. And I don't know if you've heard, but New York, it's a hell of a town. Something's up and something else is down. Okay, well, it's been 3 hours and 22 minutes. I guess it makes sense in some regard to soldier ahead to 4 hours, but I don't know if I've got that much entertainment in me. Am I really that full of joyous notions? Joyous notions. Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. Maybe to liven things up a little bit. What we really need are some drums. Yes, that'll liven things up a little bit. Every good philosopher backs up their pontificating with drums. This was true back in the day of Socrates. St. Thomas Aquinas, he had a permanent drum circle of monks dedicated to just playing drums for him. Kierkegaard constantly hung out with a drummer. Heidegger had a guy who beatboxed for him. That's the one thing that's common of all the great philosophers. And of course, yeah, sure, yeah, okay, fine, yeah, sure, yeah, I do include myself in that list, sure. But hey, I acknowledge something, okay? I stand on the shoulders of giants. Giants like your mom's face, and her mom's face. Those are the sort of giants I stand on the shoulders of every day, all day, every day, forever. There. Isn't that better now? Yeah, hopefully she will soon. Did she ever even get back to me on my text? Doesn't look like it. No, she never did. I guess that's what they call a hard no. I asked my daughter to participate in this live stream, but my daughter didn't want to participate in this live stream, I guess. She didn't respond to my text anyway, so what would that mean? She says, okay, if I asked her to participate in any way she'd like to, but she perhaps wasn't looking at her phone or just thought, I don't want to do that. That's not my idea. I'm an SE Dom. I don't like other people's ideas. I want to do what I want to do, and I don't want to be constrained by other people's expectations of what I do. You know? Oh yeah. Feel the beat. Rock and roll. Feel the beat. Move your feet to this rockin' beat. Rock and roll. Feel the beat. Move your feet to this rockin' beat. Rock and roll. Feel the beat. Move your feet to this rockin' beat. Rock and roll. Feel the beat. Move your feet to this rockin' beat. Rock and roll. Rock and roll. Jack keeps trying, I don't know why. He seems to be crying a lot tonight about various things, like how it was hypocritical of me to protect him, cause I said maybe the safe isn't safe enough for you then. Maybe you should remove yourself then, my friend, because you don't feel safe enough in this space. That's not hypocritical, that's caring about your face. You know? It's caring about your face. Nothing hypocritical about caring about your face. No, that's not hypocritical. Caring about your face? No, that's compassionate, Ace. I am empathetic, yeah, compassionate too. I preserve a safe space for you. If it's not safe enough, I encourage you to go away so you can remain safe. Hey, that's very compassionate and empathetic of me. Protecting and preserving your well-being. See, when you know that a place isn't safe for you, you should stay away. These waves are too big for you today. Your surfing ability's not good enough for this kind of activity. Oh yeah. Uh-huh. That's right. Oh yeah. I believe in being inclusive, but I don't want to endanger anyone. I'm inclusive of those who don't feel endangered by the excitement and the fun. But since you feel endangered by excitement and fun, I'd recommend that you go run away, son, to a place that's less exciting and fun, since it seems to frighten you. Remember, it's not that anything that we do is inherently frightening, son. No, that's true. Instead, it's you feeling frightened instead. So go ahead and run away and bury your head in the safety of some pillows, the safety of some sand. Just run away to a different land, because this land apparently you find unsafe just by the fact that it's exciting and fun enough for, hey, anybody who wants fun and excitement. But if you don't like it, well, that's fine. Then go someplace where it's more fun and exciting for you than it is here. But if you're gonna be here and trying to always pair me with your bullshit, well, then I'm gonna call bullshit on your bullshit, and I'm gonna make you choke on it because you say I'm not compassionate or empathetic. Well, I suppose that's sort of true. My compassion and empathy is more at a meta level than you, and so you don't quite understand it as such. I don't know much more I can do, though, about that, other than tell you the truth. Perhaps you just need this truth not said but sung and rapped to you. Perhaps after this song you'll understand. Use the right preposition in front of stand, not the wrong preposition in front of stand, and then you'll come back to this happy, happy land. Instead of self-exiling out of fear because you're afraid it's not safe enough here. That's okay if you gotta do that, but don't call it hypocrisy on me, cause it's a fact that compassion and empathy demand that I send you off to a far, far land where you feel nice and safe and not unclear about whether you ever are in danger, my dear. You're far too precious to put at risk. That's why the gist of this gist is that if you feel unsafe here, bro, well then you know where to go. Dizam. You know? Dizam. That was a jizzam. A jizzam. A dizam. A dissin jizzam. That was a dissin jizzam by Eric Strauss. A dissin jizzam that came out his mouth. A dissin jizzam traveling north to south all the way to Florida. You know, it's like, where else can you go on YouTube where you can personally get burned in a freestyle rap by the guy live streaming at any moment just by saying the wrong kind of dumbness? Nobody's talking about this shit except you, Jack. God, nobody cares. You're all like, but we're trying to be mad at somebody, aren't we? No, we're not trying to be mad at somebody, so knock it the fuck off. You know? You don't always gotta be so angry. You don't always gotta be so mad. You don't always gotta be so angry. You could instead be glad. You don't always gotta be so angry. Don't always gotta be so mad. Instead you could replace that anger with a great big feeling of feeling so glad. You don't always gotta be so angry. You don't always gotta be so mad. I don't always gotta be so angry. Instead you could feel a whole bunch of gladness. Gladness in your heart. I choose joy today. I choose joy. I choose to make it my way. Instead of being so angry, man, I'm gonna choose to be so joyful and glad. Cause I'm an ESFJ. A wall sign away from joy and gladness every day. That's a wall sign away from joy and gladness. I'm just one wall sign away from a perfect life. I just need the right wall sign. I don't even worry about C.S. Joseph at all anymore. He doesn't seem to be a significant problem as he used to be. DSP is the one who pisses me off because DSP is spreading the most bullshit. You see, that's why he makes me feel like, hey, DSP, go away. You're confusing everybody every day. I wish you wouldn't talk about stuff that you don't know about at all, like cognitive functions and typology, or pretend that you're objective about anything other than your own butthole. You're objective about your own butthole. You objectively love your own butthole, maybe, but that's about it. You love your own butthole, and your fist can go up in your butthole if you want, I suppose. But that doesn't impose typological wisdom on you like you think. It doesn't matter if Shannon agrees with your stinky logic, doesn't matter anyway. It's still not objective in any meaningful way you could possibly mean the word objective if you mean something like disinterested or closer to the truth or right. You know? Your 512 subtypes create a bunch of multiplicity of similarities in which you have ISFJs that look like ENTPs, that look like INFJs, that look like ISTPs, and it's like, what's the difference, please? Can you really distinguish between an ISFJ that looks exactly like an ENTP, or the other way around? An ENTP looks exactly like an ISFJ. How can you say it's a jump or this way or that way? It doesn't make any sense. It's dumb. It's pretense. It's an infraction, at least, in the sense that it's illogical. Please, it makes no rational reason why we should attend it with, geez, any kind of worth or legitimacy. The fact that he's got tens of thousands of subs makes me go, wee, this is fun. No, that would be an ironic response. That's what I have to say about DSP. Fractions of fractions of fractions. Indeed. Fractions of fractions of fractions make me endless attractions. Let's go smoke some crack now. Let's go smoke some crack. Everybody gather together all our money in a pile, and let's buy a whole bunch of crack. Then we'll smoke it. Crack, smoke. Crack, crack, crack. That's terrible advice. Okay, I don't really mean we should do that. I do think that's terrible advice. Don't smoke crack. Don't smoke crack. There's some anti-drug advice for you. Don't smoke crack. It's bad for your lungs and your health. Makes you into a crackhead. Don't smoke crack. Don't smoke crack. It's not good. It will give you a crack attack. Then you'll just want to smoke more crack. So don't smoke crack. Alright, so that's my message for the night. I want everybody to really take away from here is don't smoke crack. It's a ghetto drug. Yeah, that's absolutely filthy. I agree, Oliver. Smoking crack out of someone's crack makes me absolutely sick. Sick to my proverbial stomach. Which is even worse than sick to my literal stomach. Okay. I've got a couple of important anti-drug messages. Don't do drugs that require you to shoot them into your veins with a syringe. Drug message number 1. Don't shoot anything. Drug message 2. No PCP. Don't do it. Drug message number 3. Don't smoke crack. It's a ghetto drug. The one time I smoked crack, I just stayed up all night smoking crack and going and buying more crack, and then I got kind of like chemical pneumonia. I would avoid the opiates as well. I mean, you got to be careful with whatever you do. And especially if you're on other kinds of regular medications, you got to watch out for drug interactions. Believe me, you do. That's something I've learned from Rachel's situation. Well, okay. I guess I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to wrap it up and maybe go to bed. Maybe work on music a little bit. Maybe well, there's some advice from Lulubot. Don't mix Valium and opiates, or any benzo and opiates. I did not know that. That's good advice. Worthwhile hearing it. That you shouldn't mix benzos and opiates. That's dumb. TikTok challenge. Ay, ay, ay. That results in local news reporters saying kids are consuming this at an alarming rate, All right, good night, goodbye. Yeah, don't drink alcohol and mix with opiates and things like that, obviously, either. Google shit before you take stuff. Make sure you don't have any kind of interactions that are listed anywhere. Look hard, because there's a lot of information out there. You can get stuck on one level of information and then dig a little deeper and find out more information. And you can Google something for a while and not find it, only to discover that it was there the whole time if you'd Google different search terms and stuff. You got to be pretty thorough about it. So research your shit before you ingest it. You know, you don't want to end up in a situation like Rachel is, where she's basically experienced a sort of temporary brain injury from excessive serotonin, and is coping with the realities of that in ways that are challenging. You don't want to end up in that situation. It's scary. I'm confident Rachel will make a full recovery, but regardless, it's scary and it's not someplace you want to be. So anyway, that's my advice to everybody who care about advising things. Thanks for being here. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese. If you do, just please remember to eat twice as much cheese next time. It will count still.